of last year where it just you see how the virus works. One guy one day and then the next day another guy, and it just it's something we don't like recounting. They managed it so well last year under the circumstances. It was a crisis, but hopefully it doesn't get to that point this year.
Yeah,
but these are critical guys. Hopefully it's all worked out by the time it's ready to start.
I'm hoping.
But are we? It does make you wonder, what are we in for during the season? How often are we going to see this? Baseball keeps rolling along. They haven't had too many deals where, with the amount of games that they play, they're basically playing every day. It hasn't really messed up stuff. There's a guy here, guy there that is going on the COVID list, but by and large, they've done okay. But with the LSU announcement yesterday and the caseload going the way it is, you just wonder what's coming. Some high school games, as we pointed out earlier, they've been axed this week. Can't play.
And especially with all these teams, like just looking at it from the NFL's point of view and college football, like if you can't get your whole schedule in, it's a forfeit.
Yeah,
and all those things. Well, do they take a step back on that now that they're seeing what this variant's doing across the country? Do they maybe ease up and realize that they're going to have to go kind of like they did last year and just make it work?
This is a question that has come up that I have wondered, and I don't know the answer, but it's a fair question. Like if you have tested positive, you have the virus, you can't play. So if you have a lot of guys, and this would be a pretty extraordinary scenario, but if it did happen where you had so many guys on your team that were all vaccinated but were all positive, would you have to forfeit? You've done what you're supposed to do,
exactly.
Right?
And that's the point.
Because I do think that's a nuance that you would have to be taken into account. Hey, you've done everything you can. You've done what we've asked you to do. We've recommended strongly you get vaccinated. We've said if you have to miss a game because of this.
But if
you've done what you're supposed to do, then that should be taken into account.
No, I definitely think so. And so I'm wondering how they're all going to look at that. Like, because that certainly changes things.
Not something we love discussing, but it's a reality.
It is. Yesterday, the Titans did put out there that they're going to, I guess they're working on, there's no details, but they're working on trying to set up where Waverly, they can get a Waverly high school football game at Nissan Stadium for them. So that's
really
cool.
That would be really cool. Love to see that.
Yeah, like I said, no details are out there, but they are currently working on it. I know they've also donated some money to $50,000 to the flood relief in Humphreys County. I just can't figure out in my readings if they donated it to the county for just overall flood relief, or was it given to the high school football team, because the high school football team obviously had everything wiped out. They're starting their season, and they've lost all their pads and their practice gear and all that stuff. So I can't tell, from what I've read, I can't decipher whether it's just going to flood relief in Waverly, or is it going directly to the football team to kind of, replenish all their gear, all their stuff that got, destroyed or washed away.
It's a good question. I know Joe Dubin's been out there, and he'll obviously join us tomorrow. So
that's something we can discuss with him. Yeah,
get a little more info from him on that. But because it's a fair question. I mean, obviously the county needs assistance,
no doubt.
But it
would be a really cool gesture if they would, fix Waverly's problem on the football side.
The equipment thing is an interesting thing. It's one thing if you don't have a field, then you say, well, let's see if we can find another place to practice, and then we'll play our games on the road. But the equipment, you can't practice. I mean, you've got to get that stuff, and that's a hard thing to, even if you were handed a big pile of money, just logistically to go get the pads and everything you would need to conduct a team, that's a challenge. That's a challenge.
I mean, you're
helmets and
you're trying to
shoulder
do that
pads
in a
and
very
cleats.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
So Because I would assume they played.
They're supposed to play Friday.
I know, but they played last Friday, I guess,
Yeah.
before everything.
I don't think they're playing. Didn't their game tomorrow get canceled?
I just don't. That's what I'm asking. Is how could they
I think it was
possibly
canceled.
recoup all of that?
I think tomorrow's canceled. I don't know that for a fact. I feel like that I've seen that. I've read that or heard that it's been canceled.
Well,
can look into it.
We're rooting for them. It's a extreme challenge, but it could end up being a uplifting story if they can rally and just complete the season. We'd love to see that. And I know they'll do everything they can. There's a lot of other things going on in that town besides the high school football team, but that would be an inspiring story. And I feel like with our area, what we know about our area, there'll be a lot of people that rally to do what they can, do everything they can to help.
They already are.
The experience. It's in motion, like you said.
Are. Yeah. The big lead, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the big lead is already putting out there that Urban Meyer has already reportedly been rubbing some Jags players the wrong way. But we'll get into that a little bit later. When we come back, Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated. We'll have a really good conversation with him on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase on this Thursday morning. Hope everybody's having a good day thus far. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe with you. Let's bring in Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated. He wrote a piece on Derrick Henry and how to handle the workload, something we've talked about a lot on this show. It's interesting. It's one thing, Connor, for us to be talking about it locally here in Nashville. It's another thing for somebody to be writing about it nationally. What inspired you to kind of break down the carries and the workload and, Derrick Henry trying to do what no man has ever done in the National Football League this year or the rest of his career, and that's have 2 2,000-yard seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where after last year, I think it always starts in sort of a casual setting. If you're sitting around, doing a fantasy draft with somebody and you say, well, I don't know if this is going to happen because it's never happened before. And then it happens again, and you start wondering, well, what's kind of the mechanics behind this? And obviously he's a larger guy, and so there's a physical, nature to it. But at the same time, we just kind of got curious, and we said, okay, well, let's see what it's all about. He posts the training videos all the time, and let's see if there's some science behind it. And, it turns out he's really got an impressive team there behind him.
Tell me if you buy this or not, because when we've had some of these discussions, I have brought this to the table. And I'm certainly, if people are hearing this for the first time and they haven't heard some of those previous discussions, I'm certainly not saying that the game is soft now, it's flag football. I have simply brought up, though, because we've watched Eddie George. He's the same type of runner. We've watched big backs, big bruising backs that punish people and, have this big workload, but their body eventually breaks down. And I've brought up because the game was a whole lot different, too. I mean, the defense could do a whole lot more than what they can do today. And because of the rules and because of the way the league has set up today, like I said, I don't want this to come off like it's soft and Derrick Henry's not getting hit. But I'm just saying I don't think he takes the punishment because of the rules that maybe backs from previous decades did. Agree or disagree?
I think it's the perfect storm for a running back like Derrick Henry, right? You have an offense that's really good, an outside zone that's kind of catching teams unprepared at this time, and so your running lanes are going to be a little bit clearer. A lot of defenses are lighter now, right? You're going for that extra defensive back over the extra linebacker, and you're putting more time into those guys. So there's going to be lighter defenders on the field, and then certainly there's the rule changes, right? And so you combine all that together, plus the fact that Tennessee has a good offensive line. And, it's almost created this ideal situation for a running back that physically is already the size of a defensive end, and so has some inherent advantages. And you put that all together, and you kind of have a little bit of a perfect storm situation there.
Yeah, I'm not certainly comparing today's NFL to, Jim Brown in the 60s, like, oh, look, it's better than that decade. Well, I mean, they've come along every decade with workout regimens, taking care of their body. Certainly Tom Brady is the poster child for that, still playing at 69 years old, looking like he's 30. But, I mean, these guys care about what they put in their body. They care about they work out and basically stay in shape year-round, where past decades, a lot of guys showed up to camp, Connor, as you know, to get into shape. Well, Derrick Henry, with that being said, I know you also focus a lot on what he does in the offseason. Because that's where today's game is. Like, you really, if you want to be great, you have to do stuff like that, and he certainly does.
He takes 2 days off. So 2 days after that loss to Baltimore, he was back in Houston, or back in Dallas, back at the gym, and starting to kind of fine-tune that process. And I was lucky enough to get to watch one of the early workouts, and this is supposed to be sort of that light sort of building phase, and it was incredible at how exhausting it was just to get to see it up close. I mean, he was dripping sweat, and it's a really intense sort of regimen. But a lot of the modern stuff that a lot of these Tom Brady's and everybody kind of talks about, a lot of pliability, a lot of mobility and recovery too, and that's really the big difference I think between Derrick and a lot of other running backs is he's kind of planning for the long term, where a lot of these other guys are sort of tweaking their bodies, especially running backs, understanding that they're only going to be around for a couple of years.
We're talking to Connor Orr. He's with Sports Illustrated and the MMQB. He's got a deep dive into Derrick Henry and handling the heavy workload that he's had. That if you listen to this show, we have discussed this backwards and forwards. And what does the future hold? How long can he stay dominant? Connor, tell us about the guy that Derrick uses for the training. I thought this was a really interesting part of the equation here. But tell us about Melvin Sanders.
Melvin Sanders is a former NBA veteran, played in the NBA, played overseas basketball a little bit, and just a really fascinating kind of guy. Talks really fast, has a lot of high energy, and is just super immersed in all these sort of modern recovery therapies. Derrick Henry's doing IV nutrient therapy and cryotherapy and red light therapy, and there's a couple of different ones that he had listed there, and really sort of broke him down. Whether it's 2 or 3 week periods, there's where the workouts kind of change and alter based on even to simulate a situation where he could have 5 or 6 carries in a row if the Titans are trying to milk the clock. And so he's really tried to tailor this workout regimen towards someone who's exactly like Derrick, right, which is a running back that maybe is at the middle end of his career and wants to prolong it and wants to be the bell cow for his team, but has also had the pass that he's had and the mileage that he's had. So I think it's really interesting to hear Melvin talk and see the way he puts it all together.
And as I read it, there were some things that you got into with him that were way over my head. You mentioned, the cryogenics and some of these things. It's really high-tech stuff, but it's also mixed in, as you point out, with some of the clips that we always see during the offseason that look like something out of Rocky IV, right? Just the big barbells or the big, whatever he chooses to pull behind him. So you have that blend, that mix.
And that's what Derrick likes. I I think what was really kind of illuminating about that process was talking to him and learning a little bit about his upbringing and the fact that he had a lot of older cousins that were, super ripped or super jacked. And so he wanted to be like them and how he went about that. And so he said that kind of feeling never left him. And so he was actually the one that started asking Melvin, like, hey, where are there hills around here? Like, let's start running up hills because that's what good running backs do. And, one of my cousins did that when he was younger. And so, he kind of likes that Spartan, Rocky sort of aspect of it. And Melvin definitely throws that at him, too, to get him excited from time to time.
What about weight? That's something that I know Sanders and Derrick Henry study as well. Do you want to put on weight in the offseason? How much does he lose during the season? How do you maintain that power and the right weight to be able to withstand the hits you're going to take?
It's interesting. They seem to think that he's leaner than he's ever been, and that's sort of a bingo word for any player coming into any season will say that they're stronger than they've ever been, faster than they've ever been. But kind of the word around Derrick was leaner than he'd ever been, and he said, just looking at a picture of him 5 years ago to now, like his body's evolved in a really interesting way. And so I don't think that it's necessarily putting on weight, but it's just making him as comfortable as he possibly can be, because I think the science is starting to point towards, we saw the Eagles draft Devonta Smith and not really care that he was 160 pounds. And it's true. It doesn't matter. All of our bodies are different and unique, and it's more about just finding someone that you can trust to work with that individual body. And I think that that's what Derrick certainly has now.
I'm always the worrywart that's on the show, tracking the carries and telling the co-hosts here, Chase and Darren, saying, guys, they're working him too much. He's going to get over that threshold, 370 carries, all of this stuff. But you sort of asked Derrick Henry about what he thinks about with that. He's got a great attitude towards it. It's kind of like whatever will be, but I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. But Connor, you studied too. You listed all the running backs that had the heavy workload and then had the drop off. Have we learned anything about history of where some of those guys or some of those teams maybe went wrong with the usage of those guys?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, too, is Terrell Davis played in a very similar scheme, right? And so that was sort of a really interesting test case. But even at Terrell Davis's height, that was maybe the one direct comparison. He was close to 500 carries, including the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And so I think that, while 370 is always listed as that dangerous threshold, I think that it might actually be a little bit higher than that. I think if you're pushing 450, in that range, then you're starting to put a guy in serious danger. But there's no magic number, and I think that physiologically, Derrick Henry is just a little bit different too, and so he will be able to handle a bigger workload because he's a bigger person, and these hits maybe, again, don't want to trivialize any of the punishments that he's taking, but maybe compared to a back that is smaller, lighter, they just don't affect him as much, or he's recovering better, and so I think all that stuff is really fascinating.
Connor Orr is with us from Sports Illustrated, and you talk about the punishment, that a running back takes, but one thing that I think you do a great job of hitting on here is the stiff arm. I mean, that's one of the signature moves that Derrick has in his arsenal, and obviously his strength allows him to be able to, knock opponents off. We saw what he did to Josh Norman last year against the Bills. I mean, that's a gif now that everybody uses, but you really do a good job of hitting on that and how that became an early part of his arsenal that he can use.
Yeah, and if you think about it, we didn't have enough room to really get all the way into it, but if you're using that, and, he mentioned strengthening that. I mean, that's something that they work on in the off-season, muscles to help that become a better weapon. Again, you don't want to trivialize any of the punishments that he's taking, but, if you can get that hand out there and it's more powerful than, somebody else's hand, and even if it's just lessening the impact, even by a degree, a tenth of, 10%, 15%, you're going to be able to withstand more punishment. And I think that that's a really interesting thing. You're also doling it out, and there's the fear aspect of it, where guys are having to think about how they're going to tackle him, and they're not going as fast towards him. And there's a lot of interesting sort of like mental science behind that too.
I love the reference or the analogy of balloon in the ceiling fan. Yeah. It makes perfect sense when you think about that.
Well, I have kids, and so they're always throwing everything into the ceiling fan.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's sort of perfect timing for them to do that.
I feel like in our lives, we've all done that a few times with balloons.
That's right.
There's a quote in here from Sanders saying that he's very in tune with his body. He knows what he needs to do. Before that, he says he takes care of his body like no other, which we have seen that. And Derrick has, just off the field, he's done that in his career. But how does Sanders, I guess, plan for Derrick to get older and the evolvement of his body, knowing that, okay, you're going to have to tweak some things because as he takes more hits or runs more, gets more carries, and gets older, just because Father Time is undefeated, you obviously have to evolve with that. So how does Sanders go with that?
That is the investment in, being on the cutting edge of recovery. When we first started talking back in February, I mean, he was one of the early guys, and now you're really seeing it steamroll downhill with a lot of teams that are adding this into the equation. But like red light therapy, for example, and, he's one of these guys that is on the cutting edge of recovery, is really trying to be aggressive on, what's the latest science kind of backing up here and applying it to Derrick in a safe and responsible way. And so, all the stuff that, he sent me some of the studies that accompanied a lot of the information, and it's really interesting to see, what a player is doing and all the effort that they go through in order to help themselves recover faster.
Something I've always admired about Derrick Henry is just his appreciation of the opportunity that he has. And you referenced the quote of, as long as I can play this game. I've heard him say that. We've all heard him say that so many times. I think is that something that you took away that is a part of this too, of he knows that, hey, one play could end it. He could be done. That could be his career, but he literally takes it one play at a time and enjoys every second of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredibly admirable, and it's one of those things that, we can all take a lesson. It was one of the, when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, you know what? I mean, that's a good thing to think about, because we're all like, we're all trying to live in the present, and enjoy everything as it happens, but it's hard. And, I give him a lot of credit when literally every play your career is on the line. And, especially a guy like him who has that heavy workload and that consistent carry load. It's a really interesting thing. I mean, attitude-wise, the Titans kind of struck gold there, because a lot of guys at that age, you can tell, really start to kind of overcomplicate things. And the more that you think about that kind of stuff, the more that translates to on-field injuries.
Well, Connor, we appreciate the time today. Fascinating stuff. Obviously, Derek is a case study that we have all enjoyed the last few years because he's just a freak. It's just I've said it time and time again, but it's awesome to watch. So we appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated joining us here on the program. And if you want to go back and read it, it's how Derrick Henry handles a throwback workload when talking about almost 400 carries last year for him. And we'll see what happens with him this year. But it's a very fascinating piece talking about his workout and just how he takes care of himself.
And, of course, it falls right in line with so many discussions that we've had over the years. The 370 in one season, I think what a lot of people are focusing in on now is the workload in the back-to-back years, adding in the playoff games.
Yep.
If you look at the history of running backs that have had that, he mentioned Terrell Davis, who went even further. I mean, that's an unreal workload that he had over 2 years, a guy that we had on our show talking about that very thing.
Yep.
So we all know that that's going to be in the backdrop, but I think you might, and I know I did, I think you might feel a little bit better about what's going to happen moving ahead. If something happens to Derrick Henry, it won't be because they haven't unturned every stone. I think his mentality is the right mentality. His workout guy, Sanders, is really amazing on the cutting edge of all these things. Darren's laughing because I always love to use the cutting edge term. And also you've got the fact that also Darren's point that he harps on, defenses are a little bit smaller and quicker, not as big and punishing. And then finally, I think the quote that they use in here is, sometimes God sends you a running back.
Yeah.
And he's maybe that guy, that exception to all of the rules. So that's what you're hoping for as they move forward with Derrick Henry and the workload.
Yeah, I want to see this continue to play out. And
everybody does. It's what makes the Titans tick.
So, later on in my career, I can talk about the Hall of Famer that, I watched, play for the Tennessee Titans. Willie, why don't you tell us about the Preds as we go to break?
Okay, well, we're ticking towards the regular season for the Predators, of course, and we're back on the regular clock, which is we're all excited about, with training camp in September and then the games starting in October. With that in mind, the Predators' regular season and preseason games in October, November, and December are now on sale to the general public. Now, season ticket citizens have the right to purchase single-game tickets for the entire season, so that's a right that you have if you're part of the Legion. And if you are in any of these categories, all you got to do is go to Ticketmaster.com and check out the games that are available to you if you're just going for the single-game tickets. But remember, the best way to guarantee a spot in Smashville for all of the best games is to become the season ticket citizen. But single-game tickets are a flexible option. So, can't wait to get it going. And remember, the Stadium Series. It's coming to Nashville, Nissan Stadium. The only way you can guarantee you got seats right now is to become part of that loyal Legion. So go to NashvillePredators.com/tickets and get the info and join the Legion. We can't wait to get it started. NashvillePredators.com/tickets.
Nashville SC and Atlanta United have a huge match in the Eastern Division this Saturday afternoon. It'll be down in Atlanta. By the way, there'll be a great watch party at Boom Ba's Craft Pizza and Tap House in East Nashville. I just frequented the one in Murfreesboro just here recently. I go there a lot. We enjoy it. You can enjoy great beer specials on Heineken. Plus, you can have a chance to win tickets to the next Nashville SC home game. Mark your calendar to watch Nashville SC take on Atlanta United this Saturday afternoon, 2:30 at Boom Ba's Craft Pizza and Tap House at 1003 Russell Street in East Nashville. 1003 Russell Street in East Nashville. Willie will be there greeting you at the door and taking you to your seat. So if you want to meet Willie and have him seat you at Boom Ba's on Saturday afternoon at 2:30, go enjoy the Nashville SC game and say hi to Willie.
Hey,
I was just kidding. That is not in the copy.
It's not in the copy.
I added that, and that's not true.
That's ad-libbing.
But I am
it's
always
simply not true.
I'm always a host in spirit on the East Side. I'm always welcoming anyone who wants to go to the East Side. I welcome that. We're gonna have a good time.
I always tell Willie, "Hey, I'm on the East Side. Just want you to know."
He does. Chase lets me know because I don't have. You have that thing on your. My son. He's like, well, my friend's over here. I was like, how do you know that? Well, I can see him on my little thingy. They've got the share locations
on my little thingy.
Yeah, I don't do that.
The doodad,
Yeah, but I haven't done that with Chase. But Chase sends me a note. He'll text me saying, I'm hanging on the East Side.
I don't think we need to. I don't think we're on the level we need to share locations with each other.
Yeah,
but I'll just let you know.
No,
when I'm
but
on the
that's
East Side.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
More
he never
traditional.
tells me when he's in a Smyrna.
A Smyrna?
Yeah,
You're right. I don't.
I knew someone that was the running joke. They called it a Smyrna. I'm like, a Smyrna?
A
No,
Smyrna.
it starts with an S, not an A. Yeah, a Smyrna. Yeah, it's Smyrna. Yeah, that's what I said, a Smyrna. So it was the running joke for a long time. So yeah, he never tells me when he's in a Smyrna. Must not come that far.
It's pretty rare. I mean,
his stop is East Nashville and Harding.
That's
as far as he goes.
When I come to a Smyrna, it's usually to your house. So that's when or I go to Murfreesboro. So
when was the last time you were in Murfreesboro?
About a month and a half ago.
Okay, so I'm saying outside of a show being there.
Yeah, no, I have a friend that lives in Murfreesboro now.
Okay,
so.
I believe the last fantasy draft last year was in a Smyrna.
It
at
was
your house.
It was. I was just saying, you guys might be coming back to a Smyrna again here soon.
Yeah. Okay, we'll let you know when we're coming.
On Saturday, September 4th. Yes, if you could do that, that would be great. Ben Jones back at Titans practice. Julio Jones, day for the Joneses to be at practice. Also, A.J.
What about
Brown.
the Farleys? The Joneses, the Farleys.
I didn't see anything about the Farleys. I did see the Joneses and the Browns at practice. Also, Aaron Brewer has been activated.
Ooh,
that's
the
big.
good news.
Yeah, Aaron Brewer activated. And one of the other guys that we failed to mention, we said the list just keeps growing. Jeremy McNichols was also put on that COVID list, so he was one that was a part of the COVID list. So I do want to bring up what I said before, because I said we'll talk about it in just a bit. And by the way, we'll have some Titans audio a little bit later in the show from what went on at practice today as they get tuned up for their final preseason game against the Bears on Saturday at Nissan Stadium. But when you're already getting the reports, and in fact, I even brought this up to, who did we have on this week? Oh, it was Mike Golick Jr. I think it was yesterday. And I said, look, I'm not trying to, turn this into a big story. I'm just my observation. Just watching. Yes, I had to admit first that I was watching Jags preseason football. You say why? I don't know. Clearly I was flipping through and I decided to stop. And I've watched a couple of their preseason games now. Not the entirety, but just a little bit. And especially when Trevor Lawrence is in there. And, watching Urban Meyer, remember I brought up his body language. I was like, man, his body language sucks. I mean, Urban Meyer, every time Trevor Lawrence throws an incomplete pass, he dips his head like, oh, what are we doing? And now there's already a report. Jags players growing weary of Urban Meyer. Already. Our players are already growing weary of Urban Meyer. I bring this up with a chuckle because we've all said it, right? It's like, how long is this really going to last? Like this one, he's already got a track record of bouncing quickly. You know, the minute things get to a certain place, health comes into it, and he's out. How long does this really have, this shelf life in Jacksonville? Like, people are already saying this, like he's one and done. Do you guys believe that?
When does the USC job open?
So you're going with that? I mean, that rumor, though, has been out there for years,
I know,
and he hasn't taken it.
But honestly, and Urban is in a different category, is the gentleman I'm about to bring up. But it wouldn't shock me if this is a Bobby Petrino situation. Now, I don't know if he'd go to the extent of
you think he'll just leave notes in the lockers?
Leaving notes in the locker. I don't know if he'll do that, but like it feels like he's going to get into this.
Boy, Algie Crumpler would be ticked if he heard another coach did that.
I know.
In the NFL.
And he realizes that he can't the hardest part for him was always going to be that he can't have the control over the players like he did in college.
Yeah.
You just can't. These are pros. They make more money than you.
Yep.
Like, newsflash, they make more money than you. And so, like, Trevor Lawrence
is valued more than Urban Meyer. He just
correct.
is.
So he can't have, yes, you're the head coach, you're the CEO, but it's different in the NFL than it is college. You just cannot have the same type of relationship with your players in the NFL that you do in college. And I think he is going to have – I always thought he was going to have a hard time with that. And I think now that he's realizing it, now that he's there in the middle of it, he's going, damn, okay. And the players are like, he's acting like he did as a college coach, and the players are like, yeah, no. Like that.
I wonder how he's – because it was phrased, the tweet was, he's already rubbing some Jags players the wrong way. Like, I wonder what that means.
Okay, but let's take the other side of the coin. Because I'm trying to remember what the reference point was, but there was something about Tom Coughlin. And, okay, Tom Coughlin had come back to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we know, as history shows, Tom Coughlin did a pretty good job with the Giants.
And the Jags.
Got a ring. But this was after he got ousted by the
Jags, not second stint Jags.
Yeah.
First stint Jags, he eventually gets fired after a lot of success. Comes to the Giants. Giants, they bring him in. Tom Coughlin goes way back to the 80s Giants with Bill Parcells. So there was a lot of stuff out of New York. Hey, Tom Coughlin is tough, man. Some people don't really like his style. He is hard on the players. And I remember Phil Simms coming out and said, you mean trying to get the guys to come to the meetings on time and expecting a lot and having some discipline to a team that hasn't been very good? Oh, wow. He was trying to say, like,
whoa,
maybe this is what these guys need.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm a little skeptical of the Jaguars players because I know that, boy, they've got a great track record of success. Oh, man, this coach is rubbing me the wrong way. Well, I mean, this is not how we roll in Jacksonville. We stink. Where's the country club? I mean, what do they expect us to be?
That is a very fair point, Willie. It's a fantastic point.
Well, I mean,
who the hell are you
exactly
to be complaining? Like, you guys have sucked for a decade. Like, who are you to complain?
And are these the?
I'm not the biggest Urban Meyer fan, but I just
I don't think any of us are.
Yeah.
So are the guys complaining ones that have been there and they've just been used to stealing money, which is they've been stealing Shad Khan's money for however long they've been there, and so now it's like somebody comes in. That's a really good point. It's a good way to look at it because Urban can be Richard at times, and as we know, and if he's
at times, nice.
Most of the time,
I think he's a full-time Richard.
Yeah, he's a full-time Richard. But if he's coming in and he's actually trying to change culture, and maybe he's having to learn and do it, realize, okay, these are professionals, so I got to do it differently. And then he's just running into players that have been used to coasting through and, like I said, stealing Shad Khan's money, then yeah, okay. Then they need to get over it. But I don't know exactly what the dynamic is there and what how long these players that are supposedly upset how long they've been there. But to the original point, I just maybe it's not one and done, but I don't see this lasting long. I just
Damn
think
you, Willie. I really wanted to beat up Urban Meyer, and then when you said that, I'm like, well, dang it. I don't feel like
it made sense.
Yeah, I just don't feel like beating him up as much because who the hell are they to be complaining? Dang it. I
thought that was the whole idea. Like we've tried all these other things. We've tried the conventional way, and nothing seems to be working. So let's try something different. And then before they ever play a game, you're going to have a bunch of players behind the scenes go, man, I don't know, man. This new stuff. It's kind of rubbing me the wrong way. Well, what's the right way? You guys have been doing stuff the wrong way. Whatever you've been doing hasn't worked real well. Maybe you ought to try something different. But I don't know. You guys, we have watched Urban Meyer for a long, long time. We're about to celebrate our 10th birthday. The very first year, I can remember Joe Dubin was accounting a story that he was, we talked about Urban Meyer a lot. Let's just put it that way. Maybe we'll talk to Joe about more specific. Because didn't Urban Meyer have a daughter that played college volleyball? I think she came through. I think maybe they were playing Lipscomb.
Florida, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I think they were playing Lipscomb at one point, and Joe, I think, was watching the game. It was really interesting. He's a different guy. So let's do it this way. I don't know if you guys can pull this up this quick, but where does Urban Meyer rank on coaches that are most likely to be gone next year? I'm sure there's plenty of prop bets on how long he will last, right? Over, under, all of that.
I haven't seen any of those yet, but I mean, yeah, those certainly exist.
You talking about hot seat?
Or hot seat may not be the right word because it seems like the owner has got they made this move. So to pull the plug in the middle of the season is one thing, but him pulling the plug, which I think you were throwing out there, Darren, the Bobby Petrino method of, hey, this isn't working for me.
It depends.
I'm jumping to college.
But see, here's the thing. It depends on
Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz did not complete his one and only year in the NFL. He went to the Jets, and then before the season was over, it was like, this ain't my cup of tea.
Spurrier was quick too, right?
Spurrier was there, 2 years? But I think
was he 2 or was it a year? Did he finish?
I feel like
year 2.
I think he went into the second year at least.
No, I mean I know, but did
Petrino
he finish year 2?
Petrino and was it Petrino's first year in Atlanta?
Yeah,
so
he coached
Petrino
9 games.
and Lou Holtz did not complete the year. So there is a precedent for
Spurrier was there 02-03.
So he made it through 2 years.
So he made it through the second year?
Did he have 32 games?
I used to say, does he have – right, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Does he have 32
Yeah.
a record that includes 32 games?
Yep.
In the NFL?
Yep.
Okay. Because I thought maybe he didn't make it through the second year. Okay, so still 2 and done. It feels like a 2 and done
Saban
for
was in Miami
3?
Was it 3 years?
Yeah.
Was it 3?
But he did not get a complete year in his last year.
No, but he wasn't. He wasn't going to Alabama.
After
he wasn't
telling people he is not going anywhere. Whoops.
It depends on what job it is. Like if USC's been the hot rumor, so that's why I keep going back to that. But like for Bobby Petrino, at the time, Arkansas was considered to be a pretty good job because of what previous coaches had done. Now, was it the best job? No, but it was appealing enough to him that he's like, hey, you know what? I can go there and I can make that program better.
Could ride motorcycles.
I can be the CEO, ride motorcycles with my girlfriend and not tell my wife.
They got a good swimming team.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah. So I can do all of those things. If SC opens.
Go the distance.
That one trip didn't really go the distance, did it?
No, it didn't.
It did not.
It didn't. That was the problem.
It got cut short.
There's a lot of distances he was wanting to go, but anyway, we won't get into that. But it depends on what job it is. Like if USC comes a calling, if they finally if they just are bad and they move on from Helton and they call Urban's people and they go, we want Coach Meyer. I think that pulls him away because you can walk on the campus at Southern Cal and he can be like he was at Florida, like even before that at Utah, like he was at Ohio State. He can be the guy. He walks on campus and literally everybody bows down to him.
But some of it is going to have to do with how well he thinks his spell is working, his whole shtick is working with the Jaguars, which is why you can see why these stories will be relevant. And they'll be checking in on this every week. Hey, what's the pulse? Are you buying in? Are you getting the buy-in? How well does Lawrence play? If Lawrence is playing pretty well and they don't, maybe they don't light it up, but they're making inroads, then that probably influences whether he's going to be looking around to the college front.
Yeah, and
if it's going completely awful, then I think the story's going to write itself.
But the guys we just named, like Saban, Spurrier, Lou Holtz, like they're all great coaches. They all have an ego. Every coach has an ego.
No question.
No doubt. And their spell didn't work. If their spells were working, if they truly felt like, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the man in this, they would have stayed. But winning comes with that, and that wasn't happening, obviously. And it's like Saban could get up and say all he wanted to, like he's staying, he's not going anywhere. He wants to live this NFL dream, yada, 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 yada. Keeps hitting ignore from Tuscaloosa, but everybody knew it was going to happen.
I'll give you another one that happened in another sport, but John Beeline for the Cavs. It was like, this is not working for me. This is not my thing.
Yep. And what did we start here? When was the beginning of the end? When we started hearing reports of what?
Dissension.
The players were growing weary of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The players were not happy.
It's happened to a lot of basketball coaches. And then there's the guy that has success, like Brad Stevens.
Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan. Those two guys would have been like, man, those are brilliant college coaches. What are they thinking? But it worked. It's worked out pretty well for them.
What
John Calipari, not so much. When he went to the Nets, that didn't go very well.
Not so much.
Nope.
Rick Pitino, not so much. Although he did have a few moments with the Knicks before he ever went to Providence and became the college coach we know him to be today.
Here's a wild card job to keep an eye on that could potentially come open, and that is, what if Lincoln Riley does finally make the jump and he tries and he wants to go to the NFL? Because that's been another rumor that's been out there forever.
That'll be
Oklahoma going to the SEC.
Sure. That'll be
they can make a trade.
Easy dot to connect.
Lincoln Riley for Urban Meyer. Lincoln Riley takes the Jags. And
think
Urban goes to Oklahoma.
Interesting.
That's interesting. But I think eventually Lincoln Riley is going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
That's just I feel like that's just written in the stars.
Well, watching Hard Knocks last night, Meathead's not going to make it a long time. So.
No, I don't think man, that division is so bad that I think they should win it by default if Dak is healthy and Zeke is, just productive. I think they can, because they got,
By the way, episode 3 was its best so far.
It was its best, but it's still as a whole, it's boring.
I thought it was the best one by far.
Yeah, I like that they focused on Amari Cooper a little more.
Yeah, and I love Diggs' kid. He was a rock star.
He was cool.
By the way, going through their facility at the beginning,
with the
wow,
drone,
holy in Frisco, holy moly! Yeah, I just thought it was the best one by far. But Meathead McCarthy, he's not going to be there a long time.
I could see that being a 2 and done. Honestly, like if they don't make the playoffs this year, I would make.
If they don't make the playoffs this year, I think he's gone.
Because I think Steven really pushes Jerry. Hey, let's go all in and go get Lincoln. Because that's been the.
I could see that.
That's been the just the dots to connect, that Lincoln Riley and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, we'll come back. Our buddy Alan Bell from Sportsline. We'll begin the second hour with him. That's next here on the DDC ESPN 102.5 The Game. second hour on this Thursday. Hope you're having a good day thus far. Beautiful day. It's going to be hot again, so just keep that in mind. Let's go to our buddy Alan Bell. At Alan Bell 247 on Twitter. Give him a follow. He is certainly worthy of it. He's with CBS Sportsline, and he joins us. We were talking about this yesterday, Alan. We were going to reach out to you and see if we could get you on. When was the last time we talked to you? And I threw out there, I think it was the day the whole NC State baseball Vanderbilt game in Omaha at the College World Series, because I remember vividly talking to you that day. And I don't remember, guys, if we decided that was it or not, but I'll certainly never forget that day you joined us on that show.
Yeah, no kidding. I think that was the last day. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you crushed it on that report because, I mean, honestly, look how much you changed the lines, right? Like, you literally
Crazy.
had an effect, across Vegas and all of it. So, yeah, I think that was the last day.
That is crazy. Okay, so let's talk about going into year 2 of the football season, because we didn't get to start at the beginning, right? So it started in November 1st to be exact, sports betting in this market and in the state. But now that you're gonna be able to start at the beginning, college football season, we get a little appetizer this weekend, and then the NFL season here in a couple of weeks. How much do you think that'll change everything, Alan? And, oh, by the way, every time we talk to you, we kind of get an update. We're still not even a year in. How's it been going thus far in the state?
Yeah, so first, in the state, it's been going fantastic. Tennessee, month over month ranks in the top 8 of states in terms of, the books, the states they look at total handle, right? So the total amount of money that was wagered. And Tennessee being in the top 8, understand, you were going against large states, right? Like, New Jersey, like states that have been doing this, that have massive populations. So it's very good. Tennessee's doing well. As for the start of football season, let me just say this. It is going to be massive, because, one, you're going to have everybody who's a football fan who's already betting, right? And this is a sports crazy state. But two, think about, just filling out brackets and everything for the NCAA tournament, right? Like those, week leading up to it, like in the office, like even people who don't watch sports, they get into it. Now, they'll trail off after the first couple of weeks or so, but everybody is interested. So you're going to have that same effect here where it is going to attract so many new bettors. And I guarantee you this, if anybody out there, if you haven't started sports betting, pay attention to the books coming up, because they are going to start throwing you massive, coupons and deals and all kinds of things to sign up with them. So if you're going to do it, take advantage.
No doubt about it. Trey Wingo was just on our show recently, and we know he's no longer at ESPN. He had been doing a podcast, but now he is going to be a part of the Caesar Sportsbook family, which purchased William Hill. And this is kind of starting a new trend. Richard Deitch did a podcast on this. We've seen Darren Ravel be another kind of national sports media guy that has joined forces with, one of these companies. Is this kind of the new trend? Is this kind of a new way to get exposure, get their name out there, get people that have been in the media business covering these sports that have a name to work for these outlets?
Yeah, it is. So, full disclosure, CBS, we're a partner with Caesars, which used to be William Hill. So, yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I talk with these guys every single day. Now, what Trey Wingo is doing is different than us, right? Like, we provide lines, et cetera, things like that. Like, they're, more of a brand spokesman. But, yes, you're going to start seeing it more. And what I correlate it to is how we've seen sports teams, especially the NFL, how they've started to have their own editorial groups, right? Because they have value there, and they can in-house it and market it themselves. So, yeah, I kind of look at it that way. But you're going to see it more, because all it is advertising, right? It's all marketing, and that's how these books have to operate, because they have to continue to add new users. That's what it's all about. So that's why when you see all of these deals that come out, whether it be Caesars, FanDuel, DraftKings, whoever, when they say, hey, if you sign up with us, we'll give you, $100 of free bets or whatever. That's what it's about. It's all about new users. So, yeah, you're going to continue to see this more and more.
What does that mean, Alan, just so I've got this straight moving forward, when you say you guys have teamed up with Caesars? What does that entail?
Yeah, so we've been a partner with William Hill for about a year and a half now, which is now season. And for us, it's all about them having their lines, their odds, posted on our site. It's another, marketing type deal. So anybody that goes to Sportsline, you're going to see at the top of the site, hey, bet here with Caesars, right? You go to CBSSports.com, you're going to see bet here with Caesars. Our graphics include Caesars graphics on there, images on there. So, yeah, I mean, it's another marketing deal. That's essentially what it is. It all goes back to that. Like, these books are going to spend a good amount of money doing that because it's very, very valuable to them.
As we just talked about, you weren't able to you weren't able to bet or gamble in this state, in this market, on preseason games last year. You've had that ability, and by the way, if you've been betting on the Titans, you've done quite well. They have been creaming the line because I think they've been the slight underdog in every game, and by the way, they're the slight underdog again for the final preseason game. But how much action have you seen and chatter, people talking about preseason games?
Oh, a ton. Let me say this. You remember the MLB, the Field of Dreams game that we had, 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the same night as the Patriots and I think Washington played, and then the Steelers and the Eagles. The
That's
Field
correct.
of Dreams game didn't even come close to those games in terms of betting.
Wow.
It's massive. It's massive because people are just football crazy. So, yeah, the preseason has had a lot of action towards it. We've seen a huge streak going as well in terms of the unders hitting. It's at the unders hit 24 out of 33 games. So you've seen a lot of people, get excited about trends, et cetera, things like that. And you're right. With the Titans, they've outscored their first two opponents 57-6. So they've been clobbering people for sure.
I didn't just do this because we were having you on, but that would make sense because I've taken a peek. I'll just be perfectly honest at week 1. And right now, I think from what I've seen, the largest line is the first game of the NFL season, that Thursday night game in Tampa, Bucs-Cowboys. Tampa favored by just slightly over a touchdown. So a touchdown and a hook, 7.5. Are you surprised that line? Because a lot of people are, like always, jumping on Dallas's team. Dak's back in the fold. And, a lot of people are jumping on the Cowboys bandwagon. Were you surprised that line was that high?
No, not really, because you've got Tom Brady, you've got the Bucs going against, like you said, the Cowboys with all the, injury reports and things that we've seen out of Dak Prescott. Plus, the Cowboys really just weren't that great last year. And if you look at the historicals in the NFL, the kickoff game, we've done this now for about 16, 17 years, kind of officially. The team that won the Super Bowl is about 69% against the spread and about 80% to win the game. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Everything says that the Super Bowl team coming in, plays pretty well. And you mix that with the Cowboys. Yeah, a lot of people like to play the Cowboys. A whole lot of other people like to fade the Cowboys.
Alan, let's go back to the preseason betting because I used to joke all the time. I just assumed, which was wrong, but for years saying, why in the world would anybody bet on a preseason game where the result really at the end of the day doesn't matter? Nobody can remember what a team's preseason record is the last year or the year before. I couldn't tell you what the Titans' preseason record was last year, but that
I do. It was
0-0.
0-0.
Yeah. I guess that's probably not a good example that I just put out there. 2 years ago.
I know what you meant. Yeah.
But you see where I'm going. Anyway, but I'm reading all these studies, right? In fact, in the I texted an article in The Athletic yesterday breaking down in The Athletic why the game between the Bears and the Titans, the line and the analysis and who to bet on at the end of it. Josh Fields is going to play, Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry are not going to play, and here's where. And so what a lot of people I've read say is it's actually easier to bet and with a better success rate if you really study it for preseason games. Are you finding the same thing?
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. I'll say this, on our official picks at Sportsline, I've made 10 preseason picks so far. I've hit 8 of them. Should be 9.
Wow. Why is it easy for I guess everybody should be listening to you, obviously, but
No.
but why is it easier?
Well, because it's about information and necessity, all right? So what you have to do is find who's playing, what does the quarterback depth look like, and then what is the necessity of the teams. I'll give you 2 examples for this week, okay? So you've got the Colts and the Lions playing against each other in Detroit. Indianapolis has dealt with all kinds of injuries so far. It's the last thing that they want to deal with in the last preseason game. They're not going to play anybody. And you've got a Detroit team with a new head coach in Dan Campbell, who, quite frankly, is going to want to try to set the tone for the season going in. So you're going to get the Lions +2. I think that's an excellent bet. And I'll give you another one, the Bears and the Titans. So the Bears are a 2.5-point favorite. Here's the thing. So what I would do with this game is that I would play the Bears in the first half at -1 because you're going to have Justin Fields, who's trying to show himself out to get in that starting position as soon as he can. The Titans couldn't care less about this game whatsoever. They're not going to roll out anybody. So I would take the Bears in the first half, and then I would take the Titans in the second half because once Justin Fields and them get out, Matt Nagy is sitting everybody down, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see some Titans players who are trying to make it, especially when you have a backup quarterback kind of battle going on. So it's just like that. Like, you just break these games down of what teams are looking for, what battles look like. The Saints the other night against the Jaguars, they were playing them in the first half. You had Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill who are battling each other against a Jaguars team who legitimately had no QB battle, could not care, didn't matter, and the Saints blasted them in the first half. So, long story short, yeah, information and necessity, it'll get you through.
Very interesting philosophy. So let's hit you with just a topic of the day that we've been kicking around, how it's going for Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. You just referenced the game they played that a lot of us got a chance to see. It was Monday Night Football, so it was sort of spotlighted. So how do you think it's unfolding? Would you be concerned if you're a Jaguars fan and you're wanting this marriage to go really well?
Yeah. Well, what I would be more concerned about is just the overall talent of the team. This is not a good team. So whether it was Urban Meyer that came in or Jeff Fisher or Philip Fulmer, it's not going to matter, right? Like, this team just doesn't have a ton of talent. Then you mix into their first-round pick, Travis Etienne, the running back, is now out for the season. That hurts even more. It's just not going to go well. And where Urban and the Jaguars are going to have to figure this thing out is that the draft and free agency is going to have to be incredibly important to them. And look, Urban's never done that before, right? I give Urban all the credit in the world on the field. I think he's a heck of a coach. He's won everywhere. But the NFL is about more than that. So, yeah, I would be more concerned about just the overall roster than I would Urban. But here's the thing. If it starts to go south and he, gets a little chippy with some guys, I mean, you guys know it. Professional players aren't college players. Like, they're not going to put up with that very long.
We're talking to Alan Bell of Sportsline. And, Alan, it's such a good week because college football returns. It's a teaser, but, it's not the full slate. But would you say Nebraska-Illinois, is that probably the game of the weekend when you look at the spread currently at Nebraska -7?
Oh, so I'll tell you this. I love the board that we have for Saturday, and I'll tell you exactly why. First off, that game, yeah, I definitely think that I'm playing the under 55 in it. I think that in the NFL, when we see week 1, points come pretty easily. In college football, it's the opposite, and especially with all this COVID situation, students dealing with different things coming in, I think we're going to see some very sloppy games right out of the gate. So I like the under 55. Also, yeah, Illinois +7. That's pretty solid. Again, I think that it's going to be lower scoring than people think. Also, you look at Fresno State -27.5 against UConn. Yeah, like, you remember what UConn did last year? You remember their record? No,
they didn't play.
Because they didn't play.
No.
Do you remember the Titans' preseason record last year?
Well, no,
It was the same as UConn's.
Yeah, they didn't play, right? So you have a team who hasn't played since 2019, and you've got Fresno State, who is, since 2017, 64% against the spread, which is the #1 covering team in FBS college football. Also, the last one, I'll tell you this, Hawaii, UCLA. Look, Hawaii unders were 7-2 last year. The public is going to bet the over, just seeing Hawaii. No, bet the under of 68 on that, because not only that, you got UCLA, who has a better defense than people think, Hawaii better defense than people think, and week 2, UCLA has LSU, So they're not going to show anything in the playbook. They just want to get a win and get out. So yeah, I didn't mean to overtake your.
No. But you set up my next question, because I was literally sitting with Ricky last night and we were talking about that, and he brought that up of the 17.5 is an interesting number because is UCLA looking ahead? Are they looking to LSU? And so, could that one be maybe a little bit closer than people might think, that you might want to dabble on taking the points in Hawaii?
Yeah, I agree. And the tough part is that you just don't know what could happen in the fourth quarter. That's why I'm playing the under, because I think both teams score fewer points than people think, especially with Hawaii traveling. So I agree with you. Hawaii's plus 17.5, plus 18, wherever you get that at. I think that's a good play. I think the best play is hitting the under of 68, especially if the public bets it up on Saturday to around 70. Yeah, you're even better.
So you talk about the board being good for Saturday. I think the board's even better Thursday night with the slate of games, including Tennessee and Josh Heupel's debut, laying down 34 against an awful Bowling Green team. But the most intriguing matchup for me is Boise and UCF. I mean, the Gus bus to me is going to be rolling as he makes his debut there at UCF. But that's a interesting, very close game between Boise and UCF.
Yeah, it is. I agree. That's a tough one. I'm with you on Gus. I think that they go out and they try to set a tone. They try to continue exactly what that program has been and try to show that not only, is Heupel gone, the AD's gone too. There's been a ton of change from over there. And, yeah, I'm with you. I think that they come out and try to do every single thing that they can to show that, hey, this thing ain't stopping. But I'm with you. That's going to be a really good one. It really is. And then Tennessee against Bowling Green. Look, I think that this is going to be a game where Tennessee fans get pretty excited because you look at what Josh Heupel does, his offense. It is lightning fast, right? It is so fast. The problem is going to be when they play better teams that defense isn't that good.
Yeah.
And when you have a fast offense and a bad defense, buddy, that really doesn't work out too well. But with Bowling Green and that first one, I think Tennessee will just be able to just kind of out-athlete them, you know what I mean? And they could try to prove a little bit of a point, late third in the fourth quarter. It's a ton of points, but I think if you're going to take any Tennessee game, it might be this one. And then, buddy, I'd have a whole lot of caution after that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Usually 34, I'd run away from that, but I'd probably lay it. Is the sucker bet of Thursday night taking Minnesota in the 13.5?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Let me say,
because I think Ohio State rolls.
Yeah, Ohio State is the best team in the country. I think by far. And they've got one of the best coaching staffs in the country with Ryan Day and his guys. And look, the last time that Ohio State played, they got their teeth kicked in on national television by Alabama. I'm telling you, they're going to carry that attitude all season long, and they're going to start this thing fast. Ryan Day, I've been watching a ton of, just video and everything that I can get from up there. He has been just a monster on these guys on the field. Ohio State is going to roll in that one. I'm all over the Buckeyes.
Good stuff, as always. All right, I want to run one by you, one on the way out the door, because you brought up kind of the massive, because you're right, especially at the beginning of all these football seasons, whether it's college or pros, they're going to run massive specials. And I've had people ask me this question, and I'm not sure the answer, so how about I run it by you? So with that being said, let's say you kept your accounts open, Alan, from last season, and whether you've been doing stuff or not through the summer months, maybe it's just sitting there dormant, but it's active. Will you still be able to get those, or do you have to be a new member? And if you have to be a new member or just signing up, can you close it out and then reopen an account to be a part of that? How would you answer that? Because I wasn't sure how to answer those questions.
Yeah, I can answer that question very simply. No, you can't close it out, and if you already got an account, no, you're not going to be eligible for those new ones. However, what you do is this. Anybody that has Comcast or DirecTV and you want to call in and you kind of threaten to, cancel your subscription, you know what I mean, so you could get a better deal.
Sure.
Look, you don't have to go through the whole cancellation, threaten thing. Reach out to their customer service and say, hey, you know what, I've been a member. I'm looking, what kind of deals do you have, for existing members? I'm telling you, they have them, and their customer service will be all over it to help you out. I assure you on that. So whether you use FanDuel, Action 24/7, BetMGM, DraftKings, you name it, reach out to their customer service. I'm telling you, they'll get back to you that day and help you out for sure.
Gosh, good stuff as always, Alan. Really, really appreciate it. We will certainly be talking to you soon. Thanks for the info and the good talk, and have a good rest of your week.
Hey, look forward to it, boys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that was really fantastic stuff there. Alan Bell from CBS Sportsline. You can follow him on Twitter at AlanBell247. You just heard it. I've been asked that several times, and you just got the answer right there. No, don't close it down. Just reach out to customer support or service and say, hey, give me a couple of, what kind of deals you got? Because he's right. We all do that with the cable providers, right? That's how you get your bill down. Like, I'm going to cancel. Oh, okay. What do we need to do for you? And then you can start working with them on a price. So that was really good info. All right, we'll come back. More on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Back here on the DDC. Don't forget 94.9 is the official radio home of Nashville Soccer Club. Listen in this Saturday afternoon. Nashville SC takes on Atlanta. Pregame at 2:15 p.m. Match begins at 2:30. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Good stuff from Alan Bell. Really good. I think he said take the Bears in the first half and then the Titans in the second half. I think that's what I got of that preseason game on Saturday.
Yep.
If you're looking for a little action, just saying.
I mean, and like I said, when I was in Vegas, I did a little bit on the preseason because I was out there. But with college football games this week on Saturday, I will probably focus on that, if I'm just being honest. Because I like the board, too. I think it's a good board for the first for week 0.
I wonder if Alan swayed Willie about his thoughts about preseason, because Willie's always like, I think you got a problem.
I think you got a problem.
You're looking at preseason,
I think you got a problem. But you know what? I cannot fault analytics experts or sharps or sharks for finding an area where the numbers go in your favor. I can't fault that. So if the philosophy is working for a lot of people. Now I would guess that as we move forward, like everything else, the bookies will catch up. Like the services will catch up and do a better job of figuring out how to not make it so easy for the experts. But I guess for centuries, as long as there's been gambling, which does go back centuries, right? The experts are the experts. It's a very, very small amount of people that make money off of the non-experts. But I do wonder how educated the overall audience will be as this becomes more normalized and more legal and more people are jumping into it.
Well, that's a very good question and good point, because what I'm seeing is I'll use some examples here. Obviously on this show we've talked about it for a while. I mean, Darren, you've always had an interest in it, and Pick Six has been, a big part of our show for a long time. And that obviously, uses spreads and props and all those different things. It's I'm fairly new to it, but the last couple of years, I have studied it and learned the ways and been an interest in it. So our show has always kind of embraced it, even when it was not mainstream like it is now. Now I'm noticing people like Ryan, for instance, Ryan Porth, who has done the research and he's taken an interest in it, and he's I think he can talk intelligently about him. And then you got some people that are like, oh, well, now I have to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. And so it's just that's what you now have to do, is you have to, as you learn, as you make the choice that you're going to get these accounts and want to invest more in it, you got to know where to go to get the right info and people that are well versed in it, and then also be careful with those that are just, oh, I have to talk about it, so that's what I'm doing. And so I'm seeing a lot of people go through the process right now with it, and I'm curious, now that you're going to get a full football season, being able to wager in this state, how many people take advantage of that, and I think a lot of people will.
Speaking of that, when will the kickoff of Pick Six be? It will, I guess. Like I got my juices flowing because there are games this week for college, not the full slate. Are we starting next week? Maybe.
No.
Labor Day week? No.
No. Is there an NFL? Are there NFL games next week?
No.
No.
But we've started.
But that doesn't mean we can't do Pick Six.
We've started week 1 of college football before
We
without
can't
the
do
NFL.
Pick Six.
Pick Six.
Pick Six.
Pick Six. Oh, by the way, we talked about doing underdogs next week. There's no pros because we're doing one.
That's.
You guys are answering a separate question.
Listen,
I
know.
want to win a title for Pick Six.
I am saying right now,
I'm hungry to bounce back.
next week, with the board that is there for college football starting on Thursday, we got to do Pick Six and we got to do silly underdogs. Like
Okay.
we have to.
Hey, there's some killer props we could do for week 1 college football. I mean, quarterback passing yard over-unders in Georgia Clemson. Like, that's a juicy one.
Well,
That's a really
yeah. Because if
one.
we don't, I will get with my other developmental league friends and we will do our own pick six or something.
The G League pick six.
The G League pick six. Because it's too good to pass up. So yeah, no, we got to do it next week. Week 0, okay, I get it.
Okay.
There's only 4 games or 5 games, whatever.
So maybe we'll run some practice pick six stuff just on our own for like preseason. We just got to get ready.
Yeah, we can
on our own, or we can do it.
Can do some practice.
A run through.
Yeah, Willie's ready. Willie's ready for pick 6.
I'm pumped. I'm ready. You could have a fun pick 6 of props on the Bears Titans game, since we're so excited about betting on preseason games.
Who won pick 6 last year? Do you remember?
It was not me. It was not me.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I think you know this person pretty well, Chase.
Do I?
Our reigning pick 6 champion.
And who was last?
Yeah, Dory Jackson. He's last. Dory Jackson is last.
It's a highlight.
It lost the championship for Darren.
It did.
Jerk.
Won the championship
Freaking jerk.
for one chase.
Came back to do nothing.
Well, you were on my heels. Like,
I tried, but I sagged at the end, kind of. But really, the Adoree Jackson put me back in it. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been close.
Yeah, because I won like 6 weeks in a row after Adoree Jackson came back and decided to play flag football.
And now he's already
I won
hurt.
6 weeks in a row, but I was so far behind, I had no chance. Now he's already hurt again.
So you lost, but you won. You won on the principle of you didn't believe in Adoree Jackson. I won defending Adoree Jackson, even though at the end of the day he did not produce.
Well, I think looking back, my whole concerns of there was stuff going on is validated.
Were validated, yes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. None of that was passing the smell test.
It cost you pick 6, though.
It did. It cost me pick 6. Yeah, you're right. So great.
Your over-exuberance. You went to the extreme. You could have made the point and not said he will not play at all. That's where you lost it.
Yeah, right.
You said he will not play.
I got caught up
Period.
in the moment.
My favorite part of that entire thing wasn't the fact that you lost the bet. It was the fact that you were like, "No, I didn't say I was giving up points," and I guess it was Elijah had the tape ready to go.
Roll it.
And the look on your face through Zoom was the most defeated thing ever.
I was just like, no. I honestly didn't. I wasn't trying to pull one over. Like, I really didn't remember saying it, and then I heard it. I was like, golly, so stupid. Why did you say that? But, yes, I was validated because I was on to something, but it cost me pick 6. Like, great.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Adoree. Come back and whiff on players trying to tackle them. That Green Bay game, man, I was like, what in the world? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me with this? Like, you came back to look like that? Really?
Those handful of games got him cut. That's what's.
No, it didn't. It did. They weren't. I'm telling you that's why we're talking. There was something going on. Like he wasn't coming back. There was something that had gone. Something had gone sideways. It had nothing to do with his performance. I mean, I shouldn't say. Didn't have nothing to do with. He was He was not good. But I'm telling you, it was already. It made it real easy.
Yeah.
It was already sideways and was going that direction. Was gonna end anyway. But that made it really easy.
Maybe I should say that entire situation is what got him cut. I guess that's what you're saying. So, because he was wasting a roster spot, wasn't able to play. Vrabel would get sideways every time you'd bring him up because he just didn't want to talk about it.
Had the whole mind games of, is how straight is Mike Vrabel being? He's being evasive. All of that. That whole chapter.
I don't even know if it was mind games. I just think he was ticked off over the whole thing.
Oh yeah, it was a thing. It was a weekly thing.
It was a weekly thing.
So as we,
for sure.
A related topic that I'm curious what you guys think. What is this year going to be like for Rashaan Evans? Because he's in a little bit of a similar situation. It's nothing like Adoree Jackson on a lot of fronts, but the whole thing of the pattern that the Titans have tended to show with Jack Conklin, Adoree Jackson, Corey Davis, and now Rashaan Evans, not picking up the fifth-year option, where there's a lot of discussion of, well, this will be his last year. There's a little bit of that narrative going on when it shouldn't be a foregone conclusion, but there is a little bit of that. And there's well, they've got David Long, and they brought back Jayon Brown.
Yep.
They're sort of maneuvering.
They drafted Monty Rice.
Rice.
Done nothing to this point, but
right. But you can just see they're setting themselves up to have a plan if and when they pass on him, and they didn't have to. They could have picked up the fifth-year option, which has burned them at times. It's been the right move at times, but I just think it's an interesting philosophy that John Robinson clearly has. But I wonder how it affects the player when they're in that spot. Rashaan Evans has seen all this unfold with Conklin and all down the line. Now he's like, well, now I'm the guy.
I think Rashaan Evans is one of the most motivated players on the team. It's ironic that they play the same position, but he and Jayon Brown. I mean, Jayon Brown, had he not gotten hurt, could have probably hit the open market and made some pretty good money. But I think teams run easy, and it just made sense for him to re-up, come back to the Titans on a one-year deal, and prove himself all over again. Because, he, as we've talked about so many times in the past, where you're drafted doesn't define your career, but it always sticks with you, whether you're first overall, fifth overall, or fifth round. It's just where you're always going to be judged on that.
Well, especially with your fifth-year option money. It just affects it has everything to do with what the price is for the fifth-year option.
Right. So I think both of those guys are going to be, fun to watch because they're both going to be motivated. Now, can Rashaan Evans, can he go to another level? Can he be the Rashaan Evans that we've seen in the past and not, last year?
Yeah, and the irony is, if he does, he's gone. He'll be too rich probably for the Titans to bring him back. That's the likely thing. That's what happened with Conklin and Corey Davis.
Yeah.
So on one hand, if the motivation is, well, let's see him prove it. If the guy does prove it, then it's a double-edged sword. It's like, well, wait a minute, why didn't you just pick up the fifth-year option? Then you would have this guy back for another year.
I mean,
but I don't know if it's done with that in mind. It's just, hey, from a monetary standpoint, he hasn't been worth enough for us to say we want him back with certainty for the fifth year.
59 solo tackles last year, which was down from 69. Only 4 quarterback hits, which is down from 8 in 2019. So, and he's not a sack guy. He's got 3 on his career, but
overall, just the grades, the Pro Football Focus, some of those things, they weren't thrilled with what he did. Of course, the whole defense struggled. So that's that's kind of where you're going. Is it him? Was it the scheme? All of this.
But he's 26 years old, so he's still right there in the prime, and he just needs to find another level. I've always felt between the two, Jayon Brown's the better player, or has been to this point. He's obviously overachieved from where he was drafted.
They prioritized him accordingly.
Yeah, so I look at it as if the cap goes up like everybody thinks it's going to. You could hypothetically re-sign one of those two guys, but you're not getting both. And it depends, Rashaan Evans being a first-round pick, maybe he commands more in the open market. Who knows? But the bottom line is, with the window where it is, you want both of them to have big years.
Well, when you say they can't keep them, you're assuming that, and they need other people to step up. But, what if they don't? They want David Long to take a big, gigantic step forward. But, who's pushing Rashaan Evans?
Well, and that's why you're right. That's why
outside of David Long, who else? It's like
the hope is that Monty Rice
give me a
time.
break.
That's what they hope.
Yeah, that's a pretty big leap.
They haven't started the season yet, but I'm just saying that all of their off-season moves were to set up what would happen beyond Rashaan Evans. Didn't take the fifth-year option, have David Long, draft Monty Rice. That's just saying, hey, we're hedging our bets here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but you're right, Darren. Nobody's pushing him yet.
It's not like anybody's pushing those guys right now. They really aren't.
Now, Long, I think most people
Long
kind of
got
David
But he's
Long.
winning by default. I mean, there's nobody. I mean, he's looked good at times, but he's winning that pushing those guys by default. Like who else? There's nobody behind him. There's like a massive gap. It's like a different time zone. Like who's kidding who? I mean,
no, it's a fair point.
Jan Johnson, really?
Is it Jan or Jan?
Jan,
Jan Stutterud.
Zubnar, whatever.
The Zubnar, he's a special teams guy anyway.
But I mean, like March Lillard. I mean, who's pushing those guys?
Well, you're right.
It's his job for this year, without question. But I think it is something to watch. How well does he play?
But again, it's all economics too, Darren. Like if they both have big years, and you know that yes, the salary cap's going to go back up, but you're going to have other needs. You're going to have other things you got to take care of. I mean, eventually you're going to have to pay A.J. Brown if you're going to hang on to him. You've made this move for Julio Jones.
Well, I don't think it's if. Like, A.J. Brown's not going anywhere. Like,
No,
there's nothing in question.
Well, and that's my point. So, yes, hypothetically, you might be able to say, yeah, we could bring them both back because there's nothing behind them. But then who are you losing to keep both your middle linebackers?
But, I mean, I guess, because when you think about it, okay, so then you lose one, but then you got to go – you don't have enough behind them on your roster, so you go acquire somebody. But if they're any good, you're going to have to pay for them too.
Right. No, I mean, you're right.
So it's
or you're going to the draft again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to the draft again.
And
right.
spending big draft capital.
Yeah.
That's why what Rice does is important in this. Even if it's not at the beginning of the season. Where is he at the end of the season to have him as a possible step in? Because what you would love is to say, okay, here's a guy that we spent, what was it, a third-round pick, and say, he's ready. He's ready to jump in. That's the best way to replenish your roster, is to have guys being promoted from within. A huge luxury.
And looking at the
like Amani Hooker has turned steadily, wasn't from day one, but he's a guy that looks like a NFL starter.
He's been
that's been in the system that is developed.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the inside linebacker position, potential free agents for 2022, not great. I mean, Dante Hightower, who's going to be 33, so he's older. He's out there. Been Dedrick McKinney is, he's 30, 31. I mean, Jayon's up there. A.J. Johnson, Christian Kirksey. I mean, these are all older guys. So I see what you're saying. This is why this year is going to be important for somebody like David Long. To when he gets his opportunities, that you got to see something out of it. And your hope is that Monty Rice develops as the year goes on.
100%. And then the other side of the coin is if you're Rashaan Evans and his agent, you read that list of linebackers. How attractive does Rashaan Evans look compared to those guys with age and et cetera?
Very attractive.
He's going to get paid.
No question. We'll come back. There's been a big signing. We'll tell you who it is. Also, let's throw out a hearty congrats on the other side. And how about this Gavin Weir kid? Wow, what a performance he has been putting on at 12 years old. But we'll do all that stuff on the other side to close out hour number 2. That's next. Here's an opportunity right now for you to win a pair of tickets to see Eric Clapton at Bridgestone Arena on September 21st. Hello! Eric Clapton at Bridgestone Arena on September 21st. You can win a pair of tickets right now by calling in at 615-737-1025. That is our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And telling Elijah Campbell, Adam Vingen's son's first name. They have welcomed in a baby boy, and if you can tell him his son's first name, you will be going to see Eric Clapton at Bridgestone Arena. Good luck, Elijah. We'll see how long it takes for people to call in with the correct answer. The Vingens have brought in a new baby boy. They're first. All you have to do is tell Elijah his first name, and you can go see Eric Clapton. Wow, did we really get a winner that quick? The lines are buzzing, and I think he's already got a winner. I'm impressed.
He already has.
Does he have one?
No.
Well, Adam called in and just said what his son's name is because he wanted the prize.
He wanted the gift card.
He wanted the Eric Clapton tickets.
Yeah,
okay.
He's like, hey, I know my son's name.
Fair enough. Oh, you're right. He did not. Okay, the lines are popping. Let's see if they get it. So we'll hold off. We'll come back to that. So let's also say this. The Hurricanes, who are no longer in the Predators division, have made a big signing. Svechnikov is not going anywhere. He's not leaving Raleigh. They have inked him to a long, long 8-year max deal. Surprised? Not surprised.
Restricted free agent. This is what they've been working towards for about a year. They did not want to let him go. He was a priority. And that makes a lot of sense. They did lose a lot of key players. Remember, there was a pretty controversial situation with Nedeljkovic where they walked away from him pretty much. But part of it was they wanted to make sure that they got him in the fray. So it was 8 years, 7.75 as a restricted free agent, and he's very, very young. So the number is the interesting one. Because you're thinking about Philip Forsberg, who's a little bit older, who is heading towards unrestricted free agency. Some of the other elite players like Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, who got like double-digit millions, and so Svechnikov gets 7.75. Svechnikov is about a notch below him, but you're tying up. He's a restricted free agent, so you're buying those years of unrestricted free agent money. So I'd say it's a pretty good deal. Maybe not too surprising. Would have been stunned if he got a little bit more. But we know the Hurricanes fight for every dollar. They are not ones that just open up the checkbook and say, here you go.
So if you have the lacrosse move in your arsenal, this is the number then, huh? This is what you get paid?
Okay. Could come up in a future negotiation, I guess.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? Right?
See what you did there.
7.75, is that how it works? That's the number? I don't know. I'm just asking. Asking for a friend.
Different stage of career.
Yes.
But
how does Svechnikov?
Svechnikov is low 20s.
Low 20s? Like 22?
A little older than that. 23,
I thought he was
24.
24. My guess would have been 24.
He is 21.
Ooh.
21.
Is he really?
Yeah.
So he's younger than Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Now that makes a lot more sense. Boy, that's an interesting contract.
But it kind of still falls in, like if you factor in age, it falls in around the 7.
No. I'm fine. This is what I've been saying. Like I cannot. You guys know I don't like. But if you're gonna do it, 21-year-old superstar is the way to do it. That's how you do it.
That's the time to do it. But
it's a Heiskanen, Miro Heiskanen similar type of.
Absolutely, exactly what the Stars.
So that could be kind of a Ronald Acuna. 7.75 could end up being a bargain if he keeps getting better.
Yes,
he's been a little, he's a little more mercurial. He's not the superstar yet. He's a star, but that's another parallel with Forsberg. You're right. You got me. But he can be frustrating at times, Svechnikov.
Yeah.
But his talent is something you can't teach. He's got elite talent. The question is, can he put it all together? Like, I think Aho is more productive. He's more of a true superstar, complete player. Svechnikov is not quite there, but he's still really, really young and could get a lot better. And he's done a lot for his age.
You're banking that he's and that's what you do.
Yes, you're investing in saying that someday he's going to be worth every penny and more.
That's exactly right, which is what they did. The Predators did with Roman Josi and all those guys that they went on and gave the long contract. They just said, we feel like they're going to be good, right? Matthias Ekholm. And look, it all worked out, and those contracts end up being bargains, right? They end up being bargains. I mean, Ekholm's making 3.75 right now. Like, give me a break.
If the Predators gave Forsberg that exact same contract, how would you feel?
I wouldn't feel good. 8 years?
Yeah,
7.75? No, I would not feel good. No.
But we said that's the neighborhood.
Oh.
Because remember, unrestricted is different than restricted. Unrestricted means he's going to hit the mark. We just talked about Rashawn Evans. When you are a little younger than some free agents and you've been productive, somebody is very, very likely to jump out and overpay. So I think that is an important factor to remember in the Forsberg situation. Whereas the Hurricanes didn't have to do this. They could sort of lowball and say, we can go year by year. We got a little time on this. He's still 21, but they wanted this. This is the price that they wanted, I think.
Yeah.
Think about it. Forsberg is almost the length of the contract older than Svechnikov.
You're right.
I mean,
and he'd be 28 when the contract kicks in.
Right. It's like.
So this is his age 27 season coming up.
Forsberg.
Yes.
On August 13th, he turned 27.
Remember, we wished him happy birthday. We did.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did. So, I mean, if you have to get, I've said this before, if you have to pay the money. So, like, if 7.75 is what it is, or 8 even, if you have to pay the money, like, that hurts, but it's the term that hurts even more because of the age, because he's going to get older. So, but that's the price
the market.
Doing. Yeah, it's the
well,
market.
that's fine if you're willing to accept and just go on and just say it. Like, this contract is not going to be friendly at the end. It is going to hamper us. It is going to hold us down. It is not going to play out for 8 years, and everybody's going to feel great about it. As long as you're cool with that, then okay, that's fine.
But
I mean, the alternative is to trade him.
Right, but let me ask you this, Darren.
Well, who's going to take that contract in the latter stages?
No, I'm saying trade him now.
Trade him now.
Before you sign him to that contract. That's the alternative. That's the only other choice you have.
Well, I mean, do you think it's got to be 8 years? I mean, 7 or 8 years or nothing, or it's not going to happen?
I think when he hits the open market, he'll get 7.
He would get 7.
I'm pretty sure somebody will give him 7. I don't think there's any question about that.
Are you positive about that?
I think so.
I'm fairly positive, and because the only other way is somebody goes ridiculously high money for less term.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Like, what's ridiculous high money?
Well, I think an extra million, like nine plus million.
Oh, okay.
For a few less years.
Yeah,
sure.
But nobody seems to be doing that. Can you think of a guy that did that?
Not off the top of
Most
my head.
teams don't have that kind of money to put down on their cap space because the term allows you to spread the money out longer. That's why teams have done it that way.
My thing is, for him right now, paying him that type of money for the next, 3 to 5 years, with 3 to 4 years, I'm like, okay, I can do that. I'm cool with that. It's year 5, 6, 7, 8 that concerns me.
But they're on a lot of those types of contracts. That's what I'm curious about. Is will somebody do that?
We got a break. Brian Huffine, congratulations. You called in and told Elijah it's Arlo Vinkin, and you are correct, Brian. Go have fun at Eric Clapton. Good job by you. Thanks to everybody who called in. There was a flood of calls. We'll come back. We'll head to Chicago to start hour number 3. That's next. Have Chase bring it up.
Okay, I will, Darren. Welcome back, Darren, Daunic, and Chase.
Chase, bring it up.
Yes,
Sorry. I've got a mouthful of food. I was starving, and I didn't realize we were coming back that soon.
Okay. Usually the break is 2 or 3 minutes, and then we come back. But, you know.
Hope lunch is good.
Yeah.
We're back.
Been a dilemma ever since we started this show. What do you do about lunch when you're on from 10 to 2?
Listen, and none of you out there listening care about this, but you know it is very tough.
It is a real thing.
Because
I know nobody cares, but it is a real thing.
Because like 10 o'clock, or 9:30 is usually, obviously way too early for lunch, and then you've eaten breakfast already, and then 2 o'clock. I mean, you're hungry by the time you get to 2 o'clock. So, and it's a thing.
It's a real thing. It's a real
I
thing.
constantly have to tell
at 2:30 for lunch is just weird.
Yeah. So if you do that, which I do often, then your family is rolling in, 6:30 going, you guys, what are we doing for dinner? I'm like, well, wait a minute. I didn't eat until 2:30. I'm not ready to eat dinner until like 8
9.
or 8:30 or 9.
It's 9 for me.
Yeah.
And it's
so
rough.
they're like, well, screw that. We can't. We're having dinner now. It's time for dinner. So it creates problems.
Yeah. I would love to make it to the end, but some days I can, and then days like today, I was just like, man, I'm freaking starving. Probably, 2 days of practice in a row, baseball. I've shed some pounds when you're out there, and it feels like it's 130, and you don't really have an appetite, right? So you're not eating much, and you're sweating a ton. You're losing weight, and I was like, it just like hit me like a big tidal wave. Oh, see what I did there? And I was like starving. I was like, man, I got to get something quick. And so I had a mouthful of food. By the way, error on me as well. I thought we were going to Chicago to start the hour. Actually, at the bottom of the hour, kind of waiting for the Bears are getting off the practice field, getting some interviews. So we'll learn a little bit more about the opponent for the Titans on Saturday at Nissan Stadium at the bottom of the hour. So my apologies for that. Also, Clark Lee in the final hour.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Talking to him, so it'll be cool.
By the way, we just wanted to, because we were up against it, congratulations to the Vinkins. Congratulations to Adam for Arlo Jules Vinkin, who was brought into the world, 6 pounds, 10 ounces, I think is what I saw. I think. Is that right?
Joe tweeted the official measurements this morning. He had the scoop.
Yeah. But it was born at 1:30 in the morning.
It was born. Wow, thank you. I'm sure Adam appreciates that. It was born.
No, I said was born.
No, you said it was born.
He was born at 1:30 this morning.
Replay the audio. Let's see if I can be wrong again, Elijah. See if I can bury my head in between my legs again and go, man, I goofed it again.
Go finish your pizza or whatever the hell you're eating.
The play is currently under review.
Let me tell you, I wish I had a pizza right now. I feel like, Chase, when we were in Dallas before we were leaving to go
that
home
was bad.
from the Winter Classic, I looked at Chase and I was like, man, we need a pizza.
We need
some food.
I was feeling pretty bad. Like I could barely eat that pizza, but it helped. And then we got to the airport and I scarfed down some Whataburger after our Winter Classic shenanigans. But that was
night
funny.
Got a little crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah, we need something to coat the stomach that next morning.
This is a close call. It does kind of sound like he says it, but I'm not 100% sure.
1:30 in the morning. See, I think I was born at 1:30 in the morning. But I was born at 1:30 in the morning. But was born at 1:30 in the morning.
A Smyrna.
So we don't have clarification?
Replay has shown
inconclusive
evidence.
Oh, wow.
So we have to stick with the ruling on the field.
The ruling on the field was it.
Wow.
So, sorry, Jace. We need better audio.
But it was born at 1:30 in the morning.
We need something.
We have another extension that has just hit.
Oh.
We were just talking about Philip Forsberg, Mr. Svechnikov, not Mr. Svechkov, who was the Predators' first-round pick. Don't get the two confused. Philadelphia Flyers have signed Sean Couturier, 8-year deal, $7.75 per year.
So handing out 8-year, $7.75 deals today seems to be.
And Couturier is a lot closer to the age of Forsberg. I'm trying to think. Let's see what it. I feel like they're close. 10th year in the NHL. Doesn't say his age. Look it up here, Chase. But Couturier is more of a two-way, steady center, not a prolific scorer, but a valuable player. 18 goals, 41 points.
He's
28.
He'll be 29 in December.
Okay, so 1 year older?
Yes.
Than Forsberg, is that correct? Okay. And he's 1 year older and got 8 years, 7.75. So once again, this is shaping the market for Forsberg. This is a contract that I think will be used to some level as a comparable, even though he's a different position.
But hasn't he been on a very team-friendly deal? over the years?
Let's see.
Good question.
Tell me what he was making on this last deal, because I kind of feel like I think I remember him being on a team-friendly deal. I could be wrong. So maybe this is kind of like, hey, thanks for everything. Hey, we're going to.
Yeah, so he on this past deal, it was a 6-year contract, 4.33 per year is what he was making on his last deal.
Okay. 6 years, you said?
Yeah, and then before that, he was on a 3-year one.
I was going to say
that's the entry level there.
No, well, he had the entry level, which was a 9.2, basically the 9.25, your standard, and then he got a little bit of a raise for another 2-year deal with 1.75 per year before the 6-year deal. So
okay.
Yeah,
but that's
man,
sort of along the lines.
You hear both of those, it just makes you think that it's going to be right around that.
I'll tell you an interesting thing about Couturier. He's a guy that was rumored. Again, we'll never know how it would have gone, but the whole thing about the Flyers signing Shea Weber to the offer sheet, there was a lot of, well, you could negotiate with the Flyers, allow him to sign, do sort of a sign and trade, where not only would you get the first-round draft pick compensation, but how could you massage that and maybe even get more from the Flyers? And so a lot of people were throwing out Couturier's name. He's turned into a really, really good player. Very, very good. But that's all water under the bridge now.
Well, and I want to go back to, since we're talking about extensions, I think we're all hesitant on a long-term deal, like an 8-year deal for Forsberg at
if you don't have some hesitancy about any 8-year deal, especially in this town, but really around the NHL.
Yeah, but
then it's unnatural not to have any concern. Everybody's got to be concerned.
You already have that, but the big reason that I think people here have that is because of the 2 long-term deals and players that are making $8 million. They just haven't worked out the way that everybody would hope.
Of course.
And so that gives you that hesitation. But of those 3, Forsberg's the one that I think you'd want to get. I mean, like, if you're having to do it, he'd be the one where you go, okay, I'm going to feel the best about that, of giving him that type of deal. You still don't necessarily want to do it, but if that's what it's going to take and you're going to have to, then, I'm going to go, well, all right. It's him, and he's the one that I think could live up to it the most. But no one's ever going to live up to it 100%.
I think the lesson to be learned, though, is that with all of the worry that, man, why are you doing this? These last few years of an 8-year deal are not going to look good. It's not stopping teams from doing the next one.
Because it's
all getting it. They're all doing it.
It's the price of doing business.
And so I think you got to keep that in mind with Forsberg. He's in that category of he's just going to get. It'll be 7 years if it's a new team, but the Predators. That's the other thing you have when you are the team that has him. You have the ability to give him the extra year.
Yep. And
that's a negotiating piece that you have
with those
that helps you keep your own players. That's why it was put in there.
With these 2 extensions, it just makes me feel more and more like, well, that's probably what it's going to take.
That's
if
where
they
it's
want
going.
to keep him, that's what it's going to take.
Now, if you don't like it, he has a year left, and you could start saying, maybe we'll wait and see how it goes this year, and if we need to trade him, we'll trade him. I don't think they want that. I don't think Philip Forsberg necessarily wants that, but this is a team that's going through a transition. There's no question.
I've felt that Ekholm would get the extension first. They'd get that one done first. But with these 2 and being so comparable, do we think that maybe it speeds up the process? Like Forsberg's
Good question.
Called,
I still think Ekholm's is a little simpler to get done. He's a little older, and you've got some other comps that I think will give you some good boundaries to work in. But like you said, this Forsberg, this Couturier probably gives you another comparable.
Yeah, but I mean, Forsberg's agent could call up the Poils and just say, "Hey,
give me Couturier's deal. We're done."
We're done. You do that, we're done. We're good.
Because it's sort of like Landeskog. That wouldn't be that different from Landeskog. What did Landeskog get? 7?
Yep.
8 for 7.
He got 8. 8 for yep.
Or
8
is
for
it
7?
8 for 7?
Yep. I'm just
so you're in the ballpark there.
Couturier, and once again, you've heard me say it, like that's great. That's Philadelphia's problem. Like you're not going to negotiate and do all this because they did that. Because here's the deal. One, is Philadelphia, do you view them as a great organization? The Flyers, boy, they get great contracts and they've done things smartly, and you view them as they know what they're doing? I don't. Do you? I don't. So
no.
Is the first 4 years of that deal, is it going to be really good? Yeah, Couturier is a really good player. I suspect the first 4 years of that 8-year deal will be really, really good and so worth it. How will it be for ages 32 to 36 for him?
Yeah,
I suspect it won't be great.
Probably.
And you know what? They'll be belly aching in Philadelphia, and they'll be calling in on the talk shows, and they'll be writing about how crappy that Couturier contract is. And the GM will be like, what do you want me to do? The first 4 years, you were praising it. But that's the dilemma that GMs and front offices are in. Like it stinks. Like I've told you, like I wouldn't want to be, because you're almost doing something where you know, like, man, if I'm still on this post, I'm going to get crushed. Like people are going to be talking about how they hate this contract, where there's going to be a good portion of the contract. People are going to be saying how much they love this contract. But they'll forget about all the times that they called in to say how much they loved it, because they're living in the now, and they're going to be like, now I hate it. Because that's how fans and the media will be. They just will. I mean, it's going to be extremely hard for that contract to live up to it. Like the length of the contract where everybody feels good and be like, man, didn't that contract feel great? Wasn't that awesome, that 8-year ride? I mean, could it play out that way? Could.
But there'll be a long list.
I
of
suspect
teams,
it won't.
But and your point is well taken. There's some floundering franchises that have signed guys to those deals, but there's also some really good franchises that have 2 or 3 guys that got those 8-year commitments. That's just the going rate for a star player. I think we can go from team to team.
Through it, right? We would.
They all have
there
those.
Would be you would have hits like Pecorine, 7 years, $49 million, 7 for 7, works, right?
Yep.
That's a good one. Check mark, positive, worked. Everybody felt great the entire way. But I mean, when you start going through the checklist, how many's going to be in the good category and how many's going to be in the bad category?
All right, I'll give you a couple more. Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry, I think, were both guys that got that kind of deal from Anaheim. The first 3, 4, 5 years were probably pretty good. The last couple of years, not so good.
Not so good.
But was it worth it? Would you rather not have those guys?
I don't know. How do you think they would answer that?
I think they were one of the best teams in that division for a long time with those 2 guys.
And then how have they been the last 3 or 4 years?
There's a price they're paying right now. They're paying the price right now.
Right.
You know what's interesting?
Now, I think obviously Perry's gone. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Getzlaf, I think his contract just ended. That long deal they just signed him to.
What is
Getzlaf signed with anybody, by the way? I haven't
seen. No, I think he.
Well, he supposedly had that first day, and then. Yeah, didn't he go back to Anaheim?
I thought he went back.
Did he go back to Anaheim on a new deal?
I think he went back.
Okay, but what I was going to say, what's ironic is we talk about these long-term deals for hockey players and fully guaranteed contracts, and then like in the NFL, for years and years and years, a guy would get drafted and get paid gobs and gobs of money without having played a snap in the league, and then they finally fixed that, but they're still paid gobs and gobs and gobs of money for being a first-round pick, whereas an NHL player is on a standard entry-level, barely making $1 million, so it's almost like it evens out because they pay for it in the end, because if a guy's good enough and sticks around to get a long-term deal like this, they're going to overpay on the back end, whereas they're not overpaying on the front end. And so at the end of the day, even though one is fully guaranteed, one isn't, obviously the NFL, you make more money, it's all the same. Like you're overpaying somewhere. Either you're overpaying at the front of it or you're overpaying at the end of it. But at some point, teams and GMs are having to overpay. That's just the price of sports. That's what the players in all leagues have fought for so long to get. whereas they used to not have those rights. And while it doesn't look good, it doesn't taste good, to have to pay a guy all that money towards the end of his career when he's not the same. Unfortunately, that's just the price of doing business. And that's the way it is. So, just kind of ironic.
I would probably lean with what Willie said earlier. I think Ekholm will still be the first one. It's just a little bit, I think, easier deal. I think the Forsberg one is going to be a lot more trickier. But the question is, to me, is how long does the Forsberg deal? How long does this play out? That's what I want to know.
Well, the other
like
part of it,
what's the time frame? If you were doing an over/under, how would you assess the over/under?
Yossi got done in October, so I would say I'd put it at around there because, the thing we don't know is how does Philip view all these changes?
That's a good question. He has every right to say, well, I'd
Absolutely.
like to kind of wait and see how it goes this year.
He might like Nashville and love the organization and wants to stay here, but if he looks at, I signed this deal, I'm in the prime of my career. Like he is in the prime of his career. Do I want to, waste that on a team that's probably not going to be that competitive, at least right now? Again, this could turn around in the next 2 to 3 years with these young players. It could all work. And
competitive, that could mean a lot of different things. Competitive, I think they'll be competitive for sure. But can they win the title this year?
Yeah.
They're going to be pretty low on those odds makers list of Stanley Cup champion, right? They're a long shot there. Hopefully moving in the right direction. And that's what I think is the most important thing for Forsberg is if I stick around, are the pieces going to be moving in the right direction as we reload? The track record would suggest that the Predators pretty much they kind of know what they're doing to put themselves in a phase of being a good team. Right. So, that's a really hard question to answer. I've seen plenty of people go, I don't know if I can win here. I'll go somewhere else. And then immediately when they get to that new place, they realize the grass is not greener on the other side. It's hard to win a championship wherever you go. Take Ryan Suter.
Yeah.
He thought the grass was greener in Minnesota. Has the grass been greener? The uniforms are green.
His bank account?
Have they had more success than the Predators? Not even close. They have not had the success the Predators have had. No, not even close.
His bank account's been green.
Bank account was very green.
Yeah. So, and
it continues to be green.
And if you're
for another 5 more years from Minnesota.
Yeah. By the way, there's it right there. Right? We already know we don't even need to weigh in on Parise. We don't even need to go there. So, did it feel good at the beginning? Yeah, it felt great in those parts, right? Wow.
That was 13
and Ryan
years.
Suter. Boy, this is great. And you know what? For the first half of those contracts, boy, they have been very pleased, been getting praise for that. How is it feeling now? We know. They're both gone.
Well,
with 5 years to go on them, it's just an impossible task to actually think that was going to work out. By the way,
how does Shea's contract?
The same GM is long gone.
Yeah, there's several GMs through.
Yeah.
the old CBA, those guys went off the rocker with some of those. The reason they did it was to spread the money out for a long period of time. That was the attitude. But once they went down that road, there was a lot of guys that got those 12, 13, 15-year deals, and it was insane.
But, Shea's is obviously injury-related, but, how does that contract feel?
Well, that's the only reason they ever traded him is because they didn't work that deal up. They never would have. That was just a poison. It was poisonous from the moment that they offered it out there. That was the only way that the Flyers thought that they could lure him away.
Right.
It's like, what? We got to make something dumb.
There's no way
we're going to put something so ridiculous and dumb that they won't match it. That was their attitude.
And they matched it.
They felt like they couldn't lose Suter and Weber. It made perfect sense at the time. I don't think anybody was disappointed that they matched it.
How could you not?
Yeah.
All right, Chase, tell everybody about BetMGM.
I will. Let's do that because the summer, it's hot. We know that. We're in August. almost September, but it's still hot. So the sports betting action at BetMGM, well, it's continuing to heat up. Sign up now using the code 1025GAME, and your first wager is totally risk-free up to $1,000. Place your bets on all the exciting showdowns in MLB, MLS, and more sports from around the globe. And when you register with BetMGM, you'll also get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials on all the big games. From breathtaking goals to colossal home runs, the king of sportsbooks takes every play to a whole new level of excitement. Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com. Enter that code 1025GAME to get back up to $1,000 on your very first wager. New customer offer, paid and free bets. You must be 21 years or older, must be in Tennessee. Visit BetMGM.com for a full list of terms and conditions. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Hey, come hang out with us tomorrow. We're celebrating our birthday. 10 years. Hello.
Hi.
We've got presents for you, the listeners. Yes. We're going to reward you on our 10-year anniversary all throughout the day. 12 hours of live shows, hourly giveaways starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m. Also, we are going to be at Neighbors in Germantown. Our show will be there. The afternoon show will be there, where you can come by there and sign up to win prizes as well. But I was just kind of looking at the list. During our show, we're going to have TSU season tickets, so TSU football season tickets in the first hour. Second hour, we're going to have the Predators opener, home opener against the Seattle Kraken in the second hour. Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan at Bridgestone Arena in the third hour. And then Nashville SC 4-pack of tickets to all remaining home games in the final hour. That's just in our show.
We've bumped up the level. That's good.
The prizes throughout the day are fantastic.
Take notice.
We're giving our presents to all of you.
Yeah.
So, Darren, have you noticed in our show today, coming back from break, some of the sweepers that have been playing that are different? No. Okay, I didn't think so. Those are the original.
He's been eating, I believe. He's had some lunch.
I know. Those are the original sweeps that played when this station launched 10 years ago. We found those buried deep in the archives, and we're able to bring them out.
So who created those? Would that be Troy Hansen or
no? That was Ace.
Ace
put
did
those together. Yeah.
So
props to Ace.
Give us one, Elijah. Let me hear one that
one of the originals.
He's got to find them. They were all put in the system, but yeah, we found all these. One day we were looking for something else, and we're like, "Holy cow, these are."
Was Atticus voicing some of them? I'm just trying to remember.
He didn't voice him. It's the same voice guy, but Atticus put some together. The Sports Revolution was all put together by him.
Joe and I will have to talk about the Revolution.
Yeah, Joe's going to come out to
Remember
Neighbors
George
tomorrow.
would always tease me, like, how did the Revolution end?
Did we win the Revolution?
Did you win? I was like, yes, we won. Of course we won.
Elijah, did you find one?
Here's a sample of what we found.
Okay.
Celebrating our 10-year anniversary as a sports station.
The only station in Nashville where the employees need to tape up their ankles. The Game Sports Radio. 102.5 The Game.
Oh. Wow.
Because we were not believers in ankle braces.
No.
We went with the old school tape. You had to get the shark to get the tape off. You know, the instrument that was made just to cut the tape off at the end of the game. Pre-wrap.
Well done. Honestly, I thought we had lost a lot of that audio.
Yeah,
and
what did
stuff
you
at
discover?
lightning
Chase, you and
strikes.
Ryan discovered the...
Because we had lightning strikes in the past that fried things, right? No, I'm being serious. And I honestly thought a lot of that
we had a lot
stuff
of things
that went bye-bye to bad storms.
Yeah. We found that we were searching for something else, and Ace was helping, and he found that on his computer. And, like, as we went through it, he goes, this is stuff I made pre-launch. Like, this is all for the launch of the game. And so those were, and we went through a lot of different stuff in that first year, creating different pieces of imaging. And but that was the stuff that was playing when the station launched. When the party was over and the game began. That's
the drilling stopped.
Yep.
The crazy thing is, I have now been here longer than any other station. Darren, I think you're same for you. Yeah,
absolutely.
We've been
definitely the same for me.
Well, we knew that you were a rookie.
You too. Yeah. Elijah,
Chase was a rookie.
I'm a draft pick.
You are an original asset.
You guys are free agent signings.
Yeah,
I was a draft pick. Elijah's a draft pick. But I was in the inaugural. I was, for the first draft. I wasn't the first draft pick, but I was in the first intern group here and survived.
I believe we have a transition here.
I think it's time to talk about the opponent for the Titans on Saturday. at Nissan Stadium. The final preseason tune-up, getting everybody ready for the regular season of the National Football League. Let's go up to Chicago. Let's bring in Patrick Finley, who covers the Bears for Chicago Sun-Times. He now joins us. Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We're trying to figure out really how this final preseason game, because, the third preseason game was always the dress rehearsal where the starters would play the most, but there's only 3 preseason games this year, and I guess that really doesn't exist this year. But with that being said, how do you think the Bears are going to play? How's Matt Nagy going to play this final preseason game?
You're going to see Justin Fields in the first half. Justin Fields is going to play behind some starting offensive linemen to make sure that he doesn't get killed. Everybody else, I think, is going to be backups. Matt Nagy has traditionally erred toward the side of protecting his veterans' health. In these situations, it sounds like he's going to do that very same thing again. And, they want to get out of this game with Justin Fields still upright, too. So I wouldn't expect to see too many Bears that you've heard of, except for maybe outside the first quarter.
Because we've talked about this week as well, so I'll be curious to get your answer on how it's going in your market, because we've played this game many, many times in our market, because unfortunately the Titans have been in a position to have a high draft pick and to try to draft their next franchise quarterback, and most have not worked out. And so other than Mariota, before that, they were all sitting at the beginning, especially Vince Young, who came in, highly touted. Everybody remembers his college football days. He was a top 3
Jake
pick.
Locker too, right?
Yeah, Jake Locker, no doubt. But Jake Locker didn't start right away. But especially Vince Young, like, everybody knew it was just a matter of time. Like, who's kidding who? Like, there's no way Vince Young is going to sit all season and watch this. And, of course, they got off to an 0-4 start, and that all went bye-bye quickly. It feels the same way. Like, Andy Dalton can tell everybody he's got skins on the wall. But, Patrick, we both know he's not going to be the 17-week starter for the Bears. So how long does this experiment last?
It depends on how well Andy Dalton plays, which is kind of a bizarre way to go about it. My opinion is play Justin Fields when Justin Fields is ready, and not a moment before, not a moment after. But I think Dalton's performance is going to have an impact here. Part of it is that the Bears have a veteran roster. They think they can win now. They have a coach who is entering his 4th season. They have a general manager who, along with the coach, was on the hot seat all off season, and should thank his lucky stars that he was able to move up and take Justin Fields. Otherwise, that seat would be even hotter. I think they owe it to the veterans on the team to play the guy who can best help them win now. If that's Dalton, and if he plays well, that could hold off Fields. You're right; he's not going to sit for all 17 games. There's no way that happens. Or let's put it this way: if that does happen, that means that Andy Dalton is much, much better than we thought he was. Look back at Matt Nagy when he was the quarterback or the offensive coordinator in Kansas City with the rookie Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes didn't play until week 17, but the reason for that was that Alex Smith led the league in passer rating. If Andy Dalton can somehow lead the league in passer rating, maybe we'll wait till week 17, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, Alex Smith had a career year that year, and that's the only reason that happened. That's exactly right. So what have been your impressions so far of Justin Fields? Obviously, there's going to be tons of hype. I'm sure the fans can't stop talking about him, but watching him in practice and these first 2 preseason games, how's he looked?
He's bigger than you think he is, and he's faster than you think he is. Matt Nagy has told us, just watching him jog from drill to drill, there's a gear that he has, even, just casually, that a lot of players on this team don't have. He is very calm, very cool, does not appear to get flustered, does not seem particularly impressed by, having to, play in front of a stadium full of people. I mean, he came from Ohio State. He was a big star there. And as opposed to Mitch Trubisky, who, when he came in, he had played, started 12 games at University of North Carolina. This is, coming to Chicago and being the face of the franchise was a very different thing for him. It's not a different thing for Justin Fields, and he seems comfortable already, which is a very good sign. The hype train left the station a long time ago in Chicago. to the point that to where Fields literally, I mean, I'm not kidding, after the last preseason game, Fields had to ask fans during his press conference not to chant Fields' name when Andy Dalton was on the field. That was literally a quote that happened.
Yeah. This has no chance.
Yeah, well, we asked Dalton about it, and Dalton, because the offense had struggled to start that game, and we asked Dalton if he heard the boos, and Dalton said, they weren't booing when I threw a 73-yard touchdown pass. So we were already at that portion of the discourse, when it comes to fan support. You're right. I mean, Justin's gonna be in there sooner or later. Probably October, I think, would be the earliest, unless this thing is an absolute disaster.
Yeah, it's just gonna make, and it's not fair. Like I'm not having this conversation to bang on Andy Dalton. I'm just saying we've lived it here, and the fans. You just laid it out perfectly. This is just the beginning. Like the minute Andy Dalton, and it's unfair. He throws a pick, and heaven forbid it's a pick six at a home game, Soldier Field. Like, they're going to be calling for Justin Fields. Like, the fan base is going to be going crazy for Justin Fields, and it's going to be really, really uncomfortable for everybody. And it kind of stinks, but this is the predicament that they're in.
It's a really good problem to have, I think, if you're the Bears. Remember, when the Bears signed Andy Dalton in March, they had no idea they'd be able to get a quarterback in the draft. They were drafting 20th. There wasn't really a world in which one of those five guys was available. So the Bears are thrilled to have him. It's going to be awkward here for a little bit. Everybody involved has acknowledged that, including Matt Nagy and Andy Dalton. But once Fields plays, he's never going to not play, barring injuries. So, they'll just get through this a little bit and hopefully get to move on. And as for Bears fans, I mean, the last franchise quarterback they had that was worth anything?
Have they had one?
Retired, yeah, no. He played his last snap 71 years ago. His name was Sid Luckman. 71 years. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, they built the Sears Tower 20 years after their last good quarterback played his last snap. So it is not particularly. I do not fault Bears fans for being excited and wanting to see him right away.
It's a good historical point there. So take the rest of the roster, because you do think through some Bears history where the rest of the team has been really good, and it's been the quarterback that's been a little bit of the drag. So what about this Bears team? Are they positioned to where if they get good quarterback play, the results will follow?
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so. Their defense is going to have 5 or 6 guys in their 30s playing, but those guys' names are Akeem Hicks and Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack and Danny Trevathan, guys who the Bears hope can still play a little bit. In 2018, with a lot of those guys, the Bears had the best defense in football. In the last 2 years, they've fallen off. Chuck Pagano had been the coordinator. He retired after last season. They hired a guy named Sean Desai. Sean was the safeties coach. Sean is 38. Sean has never called plays at any level before. So that'll be very interesting. They're excited about their defense. They think that there's a good, that there's a good energy right now, and that they will be able to dominate games. But the Chicago Bears as a franchise has long thought that they could just play great defense and win every game, 16-9. I'd be very happy. That's not going to happen in the modern NFL. Even when the Bears had that dominant defense in 2018, they didn't get out of the first round of the playoffs. So they're going to need good play by the quarterback, whoever he may be. David Montgomery had 1,000 rushing yards last year. They're going to need him to do that again. And then Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney on the outside, and Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet at tight end. If those guys can put together solid seasons, maybe then you've got the right formula of a very good defense and a pretty good offense.
We've had some interesting fantasy discussion along these lines the last few days as everybody's in that mode right now. And Mooney is a guy that's come up a couple of times. Is a guy that's not a big name, but could really benefit if Fields hits or even if Dalton gives them an upgrade there. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that, in the 6th or 7th round is going to be sitting there, and you should be pretty excited to pick him up in that regard. He was super exciting as a rookie last year out of Tulane. I mean, and you saw it right away. I mean, the Bears by August were telling everybody that, this kid was special, and they had no idea how they got him when they did. So, Mooney makes sense, probably more so. I think Allen Robinson is criminally underrated, but, in fantasy football, he's going to go in the top, top 2 rounds, top 3 rounds, somewhere in there. I say try and go with Mooney. Another 3 or 4 rounds later, I think he makes a lot of sense. Jimmy Graham, I feel like this is 10 years ago, but Jimmy Graham is their best red zone target, depending on the way your league is scored. I wouldn't dismiss the possibility of having Jimmy Graham and leaning on him a little bit, especially if you miss out on that, top tier of tight ends, that everybody talks about.
Patrick Finley is with us from the Chicago Sun-Times, talking a little Chicago Bears. And you hit on this a little bit earlier in the interview, more on Matt Nagy. But Ryan Pace, the general manager, who's been there for quite some time, I mean, what really needs to be what does this season really need to look like? Is it playoffs or busts when it comes to him, or do you feel like it's just let's see how Fields develops and that's going to decide?
I think that's more of the equation than not. Is do you feel good with Fields? Do you feel like that was the right decision? This is a guy who traded up for Trubisky, and Trubisky had a good season in 2018 in his second year, and his other 3 years were not good at all. And it was fair to wonder why you would let Ryan Pace make another quarterback decision. So if he gets this right, or if it looks like he's gotten it right, or if it's not an abject disaster, I think in that sense he's bought himself some more time. You talk about playoff or bust. I guess that makes sense. But the Bears were 8-8 last year, made the playoffs, got killed by the Saints in the first round, and that didn't feel like a victory around here. It felt like a team that got in just because the NFL expanded the playoffs last season. So I don't know that the postseason will be the measuring stick as much as let's see what the quarterback looks like. Let's see whether the veteran defense holds up their end of the bargain, and let's see if Matt Nagy can finally get this offense going, and not just the quarterback, but the running game and everything that goes into that, because we haven't really seen that in a couple of years either.
Something a little bit off the beaten path here, but I wanted to ask you about it. I'm a big NASCAR fan, so I've been reading some different things on Chicagoland Speedway, which no longer has a date, and I read yesterday that the mayor in Joliet would like to see the Bears move to a repurposed Chicagoland Speedway to replace Soldier Field. What is kind of the discussion about Soldier Field? Obviously, it's been around for a long time, been through different renovations, but what the future may hold for the Bears Stadium.
And the Bears, there's a horse racing track here called Arlington Park. It is in the northwest suburbs here, and that property is being sold. The Bears were one of many groups that put in a bid, essentially for the right to explore purchasing Arlington Park. We will, a decision has not been announced on whether the Bears won that bid or not. And even if they do win that bid, then they've got months to check it out and see if it's something they want to buy. Whether that is a stalking horse meant to scare the city of Chicago into giving the Bears what they want at Soldier Field or not is a very good discussion. You can go down the last 30 years and look at all these little suburbs that the Bears have threatened to move to over the years, and they've never done it, and they've usually used it to try to get what they can get out of the city. Soldier Field is not a great place, but the location is beautiful. It's probably the best real estate that any NFL team has for their home stadium. It's on the lakefront. It's next to all the museums. It's got a view of downtown, but they don't own it. They are renters. The Chicago Parks Department, if you believe that, owns Soldier Field. And
That's awesome.
if the Bears can find a way to either work with them or, I don't know that the city would ever sell to the Bears outright. But if they could become somehow more of an equal partner where they could allow them to put their own stamp on Soldier Field, I think that would go a long way toward them staying there. The Bears have more people in the Hall of Fame than any other franchise. There's no Bears Hall of Fame anywhere in Chicago. There's no place where you can go look at busts of players or learn about the team's history. There's no gift shop that's open 365 days a year. These are things that big market teams have, and the Bears don't have them in part because they've got such a unique situation with their own stadium downtown.
I'm thinking of the TV show Parks and Recreation. It sounds like should be a TV show, the people that own Soldier Field and who run it.
Yeah, I was going to say, in tonight's episode, no joke, is I believe Kanye West is having a listening party for his new album at Soldier Field. So,
okay. There's an episode.
Well, Patrick, we appreciate the time today. It's going to be interesting season for the Bears to see how it all shakes out, especially at quarterback. But thanks for the time.
Hey, anytime. Thank you, guys.
Patrick Finley of the Chicago Sun-Times joining us here on the show as the Bears and the Titans, their final preseason game this week at Nissan Stadium. So we'll continue to talk about that as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I do remember that one. By the way, you need to go to theGameNashville.com right now and check out Nashville's best deals. When you see that, when you see Nashville's best deals, click on that because you have the opportunity to save some cash right now. You can purchase a $30 gift card to Central Barbecue for only $15. Central Barbecue serves up slow-smoked Memphis-style barbecue at 2 area locations. They got one in Hillsborough and one in Capitol View. And also, they've got another deal that we talked about last week that's still on the table. My guess is it won't be there long. Half off $25 gift cards for Joyland in East Nashville. Get those deals right now while supplies last. Remember, go to theGameNashville.com. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. We can laugh about it now because it's not our problem, but that whole Justin Fields thing is just going to end up to be a disaster. I mean, it just will. Like, Andy Dalton doesn't have a chance. It's not fair to him because it's going to take one bad game. It's not going to be a bad series, but even a bad series will constantly have – I mean, just listen to what Patrick said. In camp, in training camp, if he throws a bad pass or a pick, they're chanting Fields when Andy Dalton is on the field. Justin Fields had to ask the crowd to stop chanting his name. Like, if you don't think this is going to get uncomfortable and awkward, well, think again, because it will.
No, I mean, I think it already is. I mean, but you know, they did this to themselves when the social media department decided to be cute or whatever, and they tweeted out QB1 when they signed Andy Dalton, and then they go and they draft Justin Fields. I mean, they've put themselves in this situation, but this is now what it is. So it's going to be, what does the rest of the team look like? Can they develop Justin Fields? Can he learn from however long he's going to be behind Andy Dalton and then truly take over and be the starting quarterback for this Bears team? Or, you know, is it just going to be a total disaster and he's going to have a tough rookie year and then they're going to clean house and start all over? I think that's where it's going to go. I think that, you know, this is going to be a situation where Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are going to be looking for jobs, and they're going to start all over with a new GM and a new head coach and then build around Justin Fields. That's just kind of the sense that I get and the feeling I have. But we'll see. You got to start somewhere.
I think for all these reasons we're talking about, and it's a big market like Chicago where we just had a great historical reference of what we've been referring to for a while now, is it's been hard for the Bears to find quarterbacks. I do think this will be one of the more featured games on the NFL Network highlight shows, ESPN, the people that cover pro football. They're going to be watching this game pretty closely for whatever that's worth.
I do too. I mean, I think this game is actually on the NFL Network live.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Taking the feed.
Yeah. So Channel 2 locally, but yeah, it's on NFL Network. But I mean, why wouldn't you want to see that? You see Fields for a half and see some of the young guys that the Titans have.
And how will that quarterback battle go for the backup? I mean, look, let's be honest. Like, we can laugh all we want, but, you know, Ryan Tannehill right now is in COVID. Who knows? I mean, something like that could happen during the regular season, or he could get nicked up, and, you know, we're not laughing about the backup anymore. And we do wonder, you know, who is going to win that battle? Because right now, I think it's neck and neck. Who had a good week of practice? I don't know, but right now, wouldn't you assess it as they're right there neck and neck, Barkley and Woodside?
I think it's Darren, I think you, with your line of questioning, I think that says something because you put him in pen a couple weeks ago. You never thought it was a job that was up for grabs when they brought in Matt Barkley. I do think the alternating series, I do wonder if they do something similar to that. Also, do we think that a tie goes to Woodside? Because I don't think it's as simple. It shouldn't come down to just who plays better on Saturday. It should not. It's a collective thing of the entire
but how does
picture.
how does Barkley then get a fair shake if it's just like, well, we've seen more of Woodside, so we're just going to go with him?
Yeah.
I think it helps to have been there for as long as Woodside has.
So then you're saying he gets the advantage.
I think a tie, if it's really, really close. Okay. But I've been impressed. I've been saying, like, I think in the first preseason game, you could see some throws that Barkley was making. And
he was going for it, too. I mean,
I think Woodside has been a little bit of Charlie checkdown, and I think some of the good plays that he has made have been fairly easy throws, and that's not really his fault. That's just how it's gone. But I still have my questions as to whether Woodside can make tough NFL throws if put in the fire.
So, Darren.
And he hasn't handled the pressure of the pocket collapsing or bodies around him. I don't think he's done a good job with that either.
There's some questions. I think there's no doubt about that.
So you, Darren, now you actually think this is a competition now?
Well, I told Willie I found liquid paper.
He
I
had to pull out the liquid paper.
Nobody realized that liquid paper was still out there. I found a bottle. It was not dried up, and I've used it.
Okay.
So I've liquid paper
because
over
we had
Woodside.
a pretty hearty debate.
Oh, there was a emphatic. This job is Woodside's. They are not cutting Logan Woodside. I wish we had that tape. That would be
probably
great to play for Darren.
We lost it.
Darren has done a 180 on this.
Well, by the way, it's a credit to Matt Barkley. It really is.
Sure.
Because everybody they've trotted in here have come and gone pretty quickly. I mean, it really has. It's been pretty fast. Trevor Siemian and Kaiser, and these guys, they really haven't. I mean, Woodside really hasn't had to stand toe-to-toe with somebody. Is that fair to say?
No, he hasn't, but Matt Barkley is the prime definition of an NFL backup. I mean, he has been, since he came into the league in 2013, he's stuck around as a backup. I mean, he's been a good one. He was in Buffalo the last 3 years as the backup there.
I think
you hope you never have to go to him, but if you do, like, he's going to hold it together for you.
Imagine if he'd have just played a game for Buffalo last year and had a pretty good game, what that would have done to the perception of him, because he's sort of an unknown. He hasn't really played anything significant for a while.
No, the last time that he really played significant minutes was 2016 in Chicago. He made 6 starts. He went 1-5 as a starter, completed about 60% of his passes, 8 touchdowns, but 14 picks. So that.
And what year was that?
2016.
Okay. So
and then
it's just one of a long list of people who haven't done real well in Chicago.
18, 19, 20, he was all with Buffalo, and he appeared in 8 games in those 3 years.
But as we've had discussions about other roster spots, and when we've said, well, you could probably hide this guy you probably can't hide. Who are you going to be able to hide? If you're talking practice squad, who's got a better chance of making it on your practice squad, and who's got the better chance of getting gobbled up if you put them out there? I mean, wouldn't the answer be Barkley's got a better chance of getting gobbled up? Woodside's got a better chance of passing through and going to your practice squad?
Well, and Barkley, yeah. And the thing is, once you get them there, you can protect them because of the COVID rules. You're able to – so, and that's something they did last year. I think it was Kaiser that they protected Kaiser
to say had a third guy in the hole
because Siemian, they did have Siemian for a while and lost him. But yeah, so I mean, there's certain things you can do. But yeah, to your point, absolutely.
The only thing that has me look at his, I've seen him make some throws where I say, that's an NFL throw. That's a nice throw, tight window on the money. Haven't seen as much of that. Doesn't mean that Woodside can't do it, but I haven't seen as much of it from him.
Yep, I would agree with that. All right, we'll come back. We will start the final hour. We'll hear what Kevin Byard had to say after Titans practice today. We do that next on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. final hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you're having a great day to this point. Titans have concluded practice as they get geared up for their final preseason tilt Saturday against the Chicago Bears. Kevin Byard spoke after practice today. By the way, this press conference you're about to hear brought to you by Hillside Medical. Here's what he had to say.
Process and kind of gearing up for the season been helped by being able to play some snaps, with some of your starting teammates in preseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely I always think it's always going to be a positive whenever you can get out there and communicate, in live action, actually, make some tackles, get some contact and things like that. I'm pretty sure a lot of other guys who hasn't been necessarily healthy will want to be out there and get some reps. I don't really know how we're going to do in this game this weekend, but I like being out there with my teammates. I like going out there flying around playing ball. It's fun watching those guys on the sideline make plays, but I want to be one of the guys out there, on the field making plays, cheering the guys on and things like that. So, but like you said, the season will be here before we know it. So I think we're excited and ready to go.
Kevin, last year's COVID last year is such a distraction to your season. What's been different this time? It seems like you guys are, handling it like no big deal.
Yeah, because I think, obviously, number one, I think most of the guys are vaccinated, so we feel pretty good about that. But we already been through it before, I think even for me personally, with COVID last year, having different protocols, it was such a new thing in the NFL, no fans, no nothing like that. It was definitely a transition period. It was a learning experience for me. So this year, just this entire offseason, after, I got vaccinated and all that stuff, I kind of reset my mind to say, hey, this possibly could happen again this year. I'm not going to let it get to me or distract me or let it distract the team and make it a whole big deal. So I think that's been something that, all the leaders and the guys on the team have been making sure that, things are going to happen, adversity is going to hit throughout the year. We just got to take it in stride and, and just keep going.
Kevin, along the lines of what TJ was saying, just overall the secondary scheme pretty feisty this summer. How good is that to see, especially these younger guys flying around making plays?
Yeah, it's great to see, honestly. It's great to see the young guys come in, Caleb, and especially Elijah Molden, go out there and just be scrappy, go out there and challenge them. That's the thing I'm just preaching to them every single day. Mistakes are going to happen. Guys are going to catch balls. I mean, these guys get paid, too, on the offensive side of the ball. But as long as you're challenging every single time you go out there, you'll win more than not. So it's been exciting to see those guys. And also some other guys. We've had some new secondaries, some new safeties guys come in. And that's just the motto we've been preaching, man. We're going to be aggressive and try to challenge receivers, challenge tight ends. Whoever's out there, we're going to challenge these guys. And if they make a play, we'll live with it. But if we're not challenging, we're definitely going to have to go to the sideline and get that fixed.
Unique about Elijah, I guess, in his instincts and just the ability to kind of make plays on the fly from what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell that, he's had a father that played in the league. You could just tell by his savviness, the instincts that he plays with, the intensity that he plays with. For him being a young guy to be able to catch on to the defense as fast as he had and go out there and actually execute in the game, I'm really excited for him this year because I think that preseason game against Tampa Bay was a real big confidence booster. And we're going to need him to play a lot of ball for us and big ball for us. So I'm excited to see him, and he's progressed throughout his rookie year.
Kevin, Kansas City, Buffalo, you guys, there's a lot of competition in the AFC. You look forward to that? Is it kind of nice to try to fight your way through a crowded AFC this season, trying to get to where you want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. You want the road to, the Super Bowl road to where we want to get to, be as hard as possible. I think that's something that we could be proud of. And it also keeps us on our toes to let us know, hey, it's a lot of competition out there for the AFC championship or just the Super Bowl. So we got to go out here every single day and work as hard as we can and not take any days for granted because at the end of the day, like you said, it's a crowded race. It's kind of like a horse race, you know what I'm saying? You got to keep going on, you know what I'm saying? It's not one of those deals where you can get ahead early and think you can slack off. No, every single day we have to put the work in and not necessarily really get caught up on, who's 5-0 or early in the year. Just keeping our heads down, just working, and we'll see where we're at the end of the year.
You guys at the point where you're ready to play a regular season game, or you still feel like this team's got work to do between now and then?
I mean, it's always work to do, but I do think, as a team, I think we're pretty excited about, this week 1 game against Arizona. Obviously, we're taking everything day by day, week by week. So still excited to see the guys come out here against Chicago and get some good reps. I know a lot of guys still fighting for some roster spots, so I'm excited to see those guys go out there and compete. Even myself, I don't know how much I'm going to play, if I'm going to play or not, but I'm going to go out there and try to compete as hard as I can. And then after we play Chicago, we're going to be fully geared to Arizona. So like you said, I mean, you feel like the season's about to start. You just kind of feel the excitement building up. So I'm excited, and I know the team is excited.
Thank you, KB.
Absolutely.
Kevin Byard, Titan safety, with his media availability today. And, there is always work to do, even though that you're not going to have some of your starters playing, that this team continues to try and, just get ready for the regular season. They do it with one less preseason game. I'm curious to see how they're going to spend that 2 weeks in between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season, especially with guys like Ryan Tannehill and Harold Landry and others currently on the COVID list. Obviously limited with what they can do there, but just how they're going to, spend that extra time that they can use on the practice field.
Is Mike Vrabel speaking at 1:30?
1:30, right? Yep.
I am curious to know if we're going to get any insight, prognosis for this increasing list of people on the COVID list, that hopefully the expectation is that everybody's eligible, ready to go for week 1. But in the coming days, that may not be a guarantee. If they continue to have a trickle, which happens sometimes, one guy joins. Remember how long it was? How many straight days did they have one or two guys added to the list last year? Of course, this is this year, but
yeah,
it can happen, even for vaccinated players, as we know. I just wondered if they'll address it much today.
Well, and who's the head coach? Who's going to be the head coach for the game? Because at this point, it feels like
maybe
they'll
reveal that. Yeah,
unless there's a different update. He has to have two negative tests in a 48-hour period for Mike Vrabel to be able to return, and to my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. So
I'm guessing he's zooming
like
for this, right?
He keeps hinting like he wants to be back out there. So I don't know. Maybe he thinks he feels good about that. I don't know.
Well, he said. I know he did say yesterday that if he's unable to go, he will watch as a fan and listen to Mike Keith. So, he threw that out there. But I am curious does he have some teams have an assistant head coach, like under Jeff Fisher, it was Coach Mack. Coach Mack was considered the assistant head coach or associate head coach or whatever.
Well, hasn't Craig Ackerman been serving in that role in practice? But
I think so.
You do wonder if you've got guys like Jim Schwartz and I'm totally drawing blanks. The other one, the Rams.
Jim Haslett.
Haslett, two guys that have been head coaches in the league. Thank you. I wonder if they have an edge because they've worn that cap before. I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, Schwartz especially, because he's a senior defensive assistant, whereas Haslett's coaching the inside linebackers, Ackerman's coaching special teams. If you just said, hey, Schwartz is going to coach the game and be considered the head coach, that makes sense because then you're not taking somebody out of their spot.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that's probably the most logic you can come up with. Yeah, because Haslett has a position, so now you're asking him to do what Shane Bowen did all last year, right? Or whatever was going on there,
right
behind the scenes. Supposedly, he's linebackers coach / defensive coordinator. We think allegedly, presumably.
So maybe we'll
that makes sense. Yeah,
potentially find out a little bit more when Mike Vrabel speaks in about 15 minutes. So
yeah. I don't think it's really that big of a deal because it's a preseason game.
Right.
Would it be a much bigger deal if we were talking about the game against Arizona? Yes, it would be a much, much bigger deal. And Mike Vrabel will be getting pressed much harder, on that subject matter. But I think it's because it's a third preseason game.
Yeah.
It's not really that big of a deal.
Well, if he's not cleared for the home opener or for the opener, then you would hear me banging the table for, Jim Schwartz needs to be the acting head coach. That would be the way to go. That would just make the most sense. But you're right. They got quite some time before they have to worry about that.
Well, I'm not even saying for, okay, I brought up Arizona. I'm just saying at some point, if this were to happen again or whatever, if it was a regular season game, Mike Vrabel would not enjoy the questions because he would get asked a lot about it, and he would probably want to ignore the subject matter and say, what's the big deal? It's just a title. It's not that big of a deal, but he would not be able to escape that question.
I think
it would be a big deal.
I think one day, if you really want to mess with Mike Vrabel and you have that kind of pull, you just go, Mike, could you clear some things up? Who is the emergency quarterback for your team when you only have 2 on the roster? Who is the emergency head coach if you're unable to perform your duties? He would.
You think Teresa could ask that question?
Teresa is probably the only person that could actually get away with that. Everybody else, not so much.
And live to tell about it?
Yes.
Yeah. Should have Clark Lee on the other side. So let's step away and see if we can't head over to West End when we come back. We would do that as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game. Thank you, Scott. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, and Chase McCabe with you on the sunny, gorgeous, hot Thursday here in Middle Tennessee. Let's head over to West End. Probably understands the heat. They've been out in the heat getting ready for their regular season. Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee is indeed on the line with us. Good afternoon, Coach. How you doing?
I am doing great. How are y'all doing?
Doing fantastic. Kind of so far, your early returns on what you've been going through as you get a little bit closer to beginning your regular season. Have you been pleased with everything?
With everything, that may be a stretch. We've made we as any camp you can imagine, we've made some strides. I am pleased with the level of commitment within this team, to attack something new and something that's hard, and to strain through the middle of it. But the beauty of the season is it's a start point, and there's opportunities for growth and evolution that we'll face through our adversity over the next 4 months. So I mean, it's I'm proud of the guys for the way they attack camp. I'm excited for our first game. Also, just really excited to see how this team grows over the next 4 months.
Yeah, trying to blanket everything with the word pleased is probably a bit of a stretch on my part. So how about I narrow this thing down? You come in as a defensive-minded coach, just like Derek Mason did. Both of you guys came in as defensive coordinators. And, unfortunately, for whatever reason, a lot of the times on his watch, the defense struggled. So I'll narrow it down to that side of the ball. Being the defensive-minded coach that you are, have you been pleased with what you've seen on that side of the ball to this point?
The defense has. I think they kind of took the spring through the summer, and really they showed up early in camp just ready to go. And that there's a lot within that. I mean, that's both on a personality level, just an attack mindset, but it's also they were sounder in their structures and systems. They I thought held the advantage early in camp, and in our first scrimmage, it really showed up. I wasn't pleased with the level of compete in that scrimmage. I thought it was really dominated by the defensive side of the ball. However, over the past week, we've seen a shift in personality on offense, and now practices really are more back and forth competitive, which is as a coach. And again, my background's on defense, but that's only because that was the job I was able to get coming out of Vanderbilt, in 2005. I mean, I'm here to coach the team and to try to facilitate team success. And so I've got to be careful to not lean on one side or the other. I have two, great coordinators, and we're I'm excited to again watch this thing all kind of come together and to see us compete at the highest level of the team.
All right, so we're still getting to know each other. So I took that, Coach, as hey, do not tag me as a defensive-minded coach. I'm the head coach. I've got to oversee everything. That's fair enough. Fair enough.
There you go.
So how about we go there? Or I go there. We've talked to you since you've been hired several times, and now going through this, as you said, you're the CEO. You're overseeing everything now, and first-time head coach. With that being said, you have a mindset, you have a vision of what you're going into in this spot for the first time ever. So far, what has been some of the challenges that you've faced kind of in that expanded role of yours?
Well, it's the, there's a ripple effect to everything that I do, right? So, I have to really be guarded against impulse and emotion. And listen, that's not to say that, I pick and choose my moments to try to inspire the next movement forward on the field, but more in terms of how I set up, the practice schedule, when I make decisions to push, when I pull back to make sure that we have the energy and the health that we need to sustain over a long period of time. But everything that I do here has a ripple effect. And I think it's learning about that, learning about how I can set the program up for success, be it in scheduling or, again, like I said, how many periods you practice, what portion of practice is inside, what's outside. Those things are unique challenges that I haven't had to deal with in a role as a coordinator that, they're challenges, but it's also the fun part too. You really get a chance to step back and try to get the systems in place to unlock higher level performance and unlock success.
We're talking to Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, as he gets ready to start his first season on the job. When I talked to you at SEC Media Days and you addressed everybody, you used the phrase reset and talked about, earning your number and earning the sticker on your helmet and all of those things that you have brought in to try and change the culture there at Vanderbilt. Obviously, you're going to have some players that they buy in quickly. Some, it may take a while. There's a transition. But as you kind of learn how to be the CEO like you're talking about, how'd you learn to balance those guys that maybe need a little longer than others did?
Well, even in, hearing it, I think sometimes it's hard not to distill all this down to cliche at times, right? Like, we want to reset here. We want to, rebuild a culture. Really what we're doing is just we're establishing a culture. We're establishing an environment. We're establishing a mindset here. The zeroing out happens when you bring a new staff in and you surround the players with new people. And what we have to do with a team that was recruited to a program that no longer exists, we have to really impose this zeroing out at every turn. We have to make sure that they can occupy the same spaces with a different perspective on what's possible. And that is a tireless, relentless process. I mean, it is every day. It's messaging. It's in how we practice. It's in, the manner in which we transition between drills. All of it should resemble this environment that's demanding the highest possible operating standards. It's a culture of competition. It's a culture of earning it, and it's hard to sometimes like package those things up in sound bites and to put them out there, because really they're manifested in our actions. So for me, like every day as I kind of approach, hey, where's the team? How are we doing? I'm not just looking at what we say, right? Because what we say can be hollow. I'm looking at the substance of the action. Are we following through on the things that we say are important? And if we're not, where are we coming up short? And how do I, attack those issues strategically to make sure this team continues moving forward? And like you said, each individual is unique. And that means they also carry a unique experience to this relationship, this new relationship. And part of our challenges as coaches is to deconstruct that mindset, to find what is holding them back from being completely present in the moment with us, and to get them there, to get them to that zero out point so they can start to reimagine what the experience of a Vanderbilt football player can be. And, at this point, I mean, the other thing we wanted to do is we wanted this. I mean, these guys are desperate to be at their competitive best. They want to win. I mean, they came here to win. And so, for me, it's like, how do I set up a program where they're able to reach for that every single day? As humans, we always want to, we defer to comfort all the time. And if we're left to our own devices, we'll find a way to not get on the treadmill or not get on the bike just because it's painful and it's suffering. But the reality is the feeling of elation that we have after we get on the bike or get off the bike, and we know we've put forth the effort we need to be in good shape or whatever the case may be, those are the moments that we live for. And so even as competitors here, what's hard is what's desired. It's what we actually want. And so I wanted to establish a summer and a fall camp that really pushed these guys to a new level of discomfort, so that they can make the choice every single day to be a part of this program. And I think through that, they've invested more, they've sacrificed more, and the program is valued more internally. And that's going to fuel us in our fight this fall. So I know it's a long-winded answer to your question, but it's a daily focus. It'll continue to be a daily focus. And I don't even think this is just a year one thing. As we look to build this environment, this is going to be something that's going to take our time and attention, for a long time.
Well, and you just hit on my next question, because, most of these things, it's not built in a year. I mean, it does take time. You have to build with, the younger players. So what have you seen out of your older players, your seniors, especially, that, they may not see the true end result of what this all looks like, but they are a huge piece in starting it from the ground up?
Well, and what I want to instill in them, and what we're instilling in them, is this awareness that, we have what we need to achieve the results we want right now. So it's a matter of taking the ownership over the execution, the focus, the details. It's easy when you have, like in our in our second scrimmage, the first drive for the offense went 16 plays. There was a fourth down conversion in there. We get down to the 2-yard line, and we have a procedural penalty pre-snap. That's the kind of self-sabotage that we can't have. And for this team, for Team 1, it's the understanding that those are the details that will be the difference for us. And so we don't need to defer winning to sometime down the road. What we need to understand for this team to be at its competitive best is complete and total ownership over all the details that impact winning. And so that's kind of the message right now. What you're speaking to is, this process or this approach kind of manifested or compounded over time is going to allow this program to reach its potential. And the potential of this program in our eyes is limitless. We're here to compete at a high level in the SEC and to be in the conversation on the top end of this league. And so I want them to know that they're not working for it. I mean, certainly there's a legacy component to this where I want them to be hyper aware of the fact that, they are going to leave a mark on this program for good, but also I want them to understand that, the results are within our grasp right now. They're within our control so long as we're focused on the things that are most important.
Talking to Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. And, Clark, I'm curious with all the things you're saying about the process, a couple of guys, how you try to push them. And let's just start with Ken Seals. I could probably go a little further, but the category would be a guy who came in last year, was kind of thrown in there, played a lot. You can look and say, he had a lot of yards. He had some plays that look really good. He had some production. You've tried to create competition for him, make these guys better. How has a guy like Ken Seals handled that challenge to try to get to a next level?
Well, he's handled it well, and he continues to handle it well. And, for me, I think Kenny knows this, and it's not ever on one player, but, he had personal statistical success last year, but there was an absence of team success. And, part of playing any position on the field, but certainly the quarterback position, is how you strengthen the other 10 positions on the field. So that's not just about, being able to throw the ball or, being able to call the play in the huddle. It's about, how are you making the checks, checking the protection, changing the play, recognizing the defense so that, you're distributing the ball where it needs to be so that we can take advantage of the systems and schemes, the tactics of the defense. So he's been all in. I mean, I think he's had a lot of growth from the winter through the spring, just in terms of his leadership and his communication. The summer was excellent for him in terms of just showing up and pushing the top end of the program in terms of work. But Mike Wright's been alongside him the whole time. And the beauty with Mike is, we're still scratching the surface as to his, potential in that position. And, he's added a dynamic as a runner and an athlete that's appealing for us. So, that competition continues, but they're all pointed towards team success. And because that's been missing, they're all very hungry and they're determined, and they've allowed for that level of compete needed to move the program forward.
I'm curious also about some guys that opted out last year before they even knew how the team was going to do. Then they watched the season unfold. They could have chosen to go elsewhere, but they come back. And they haven't played in a while. It's a new system. How have those guys gotten reacclimated to being part of a college football program?
Well, it's interesting because when I came in new, I didn't really know the backstories of any one player. Obviously, I did research, and we had conversations around those decisions and what motivated those decisions, but I really chose not to judge anyone for what had happened in the past, just because I didn't know anything about what the program was in the past, and I felt like it unfair, to hold them account or to, again, cast judgment over decisions they'd made under previous circumstances. What I wanted to see was what their level of commitment and determination was in moving forward. But certainly the guys that were out of commission for last season took a little more time to acclimate through the winter. But by the time we got to spring practice and certainly into the summer, there was no real differentiation there. I mean, they were trained and ready. These are young, athletic, healthy guys that within short order were able to get in shape. And we focus more on the mental conditioning here, because that to me is where the biggest gap is to fill, just the mindset of competitive excellence and the attitude it takes to win. I can tell you that on the whole, these guys have responded really well, whether they were a part of last season or not. They're totally a part of this season, and that's really all that matters to me.
When do you start transitioning into the game plan for your first game? Because everything about your system, I'm sure you've been installing a lot of things. You have a competition for every position. When does it start turning into, okay, here are the guys we're going to go with for the first game and prepare accordingly?
It's already started. We've shifted into opponent prep. We've started to introduce that over the last couple of days, and we'll continue. There's still elements of team competition, so we still have periods designated where we're going kind of our systems best on best and playing football. I think because it's year one, we need to do that a little bit longer just to gain comfort. The more times you rep something, the more it becomes replicatable. But we also don't want to miss opportunity to get out ahead of the opponent planning. So we've started that. I think also as you head into game week, you don't want the first time that you line up against a scout team to be, on Monday. We need to train our team, our service teams, on how to give a look. The effort and the intensity it takes, and so that's a part of this kind of last little push in training camp here, is to get those things set up so that we're ready to hit the ground running on Monday.
Clark, last thing for you. This is your first year as a head coach, but you went through this last year as a defensive coordinator, and anybody who followed Vanderbilt knows that Vanderbilt had a lot of issues with all of the protocols and getting enough guys on the field. I think we had all hoped that all of that was behind us. It's certainly different this year, but can you speak to how you've tried to manage the protocols that you do have and trying to keep everybody in there? We're watching right now, of course, as the Titans are dealing with some of this right now.
We're both just so excited and at the same time, hopeful and in some ways frustrated with the direction of things that we're seeing on a whole. But for us in the springtime, we managed our schedule really before we had the university mandate vaccination. We handled it in a way that we ensured that there was no contact tracing on our team. So we really were detailed in how we set up meetings. At times that meant running 4 team meetings instead of 1, and those were sacrifices made to keep the integrity of the team, to keep the team whole. Since the university's mandate and vaccination and our team's response to that, we've had the chance to meet together, which is a small thing but a blessing. But we do wear masks in meetings. We do little things just as acknowledgments to what we're going through as a society right now, and how important it is, again, that we keep our spaces sacred here, and we do the best we can to be disciplined to make sure that we can have a healthy and safe season. And look, as things go and develop, we'll adjust and adapt as needed. That's the sign of a good team, a good program, is the ability to adjust and fill the need where needed. So we'll be ready for that. But so far, so good. We've had a great camp, and we're excited to have our fans back in the stadium and to put a team on the field that's going to fight for every blade of grass on the field.
September 4th is just around the corner. It's going to be here really, really fast. So, hey, we're looking forward to a great first season, and we're looking forward to talking to you throughout the season. Thanks for your time today. Best of luck moving forward, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, sounds great, guys. You guys have a great afternoon, and look forward to being in touch again.
All right, that is Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, and indeed they will open up their season at home against East Tennessee State on Saturday, September 4th. We'll come back. The head coach, Mike Vrabel of the Titans, has also been talking while we were talking to Clark Lee. Some things have come out of there for sure that we want to discuss as we close up shop here on this Thursday. But first, I'm going to talk about my friends over at Cool Springs MD. And they're my friends because I've been going there for years, and they've been helping me for years become healthier and happier. They've been improving my quality of life. And I know as I age, and as we all age, that gets tougher. And I'm really appreciative of that and thankful that I've been seeing them, because they've really helped me over the years, and they can help you. They do so many things under one roof. They've got a state-of-the-art facility out there in Cool Springs at 1642 Westgate Circle, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge, the board-certified physician, his wife Daphne, the registered nurse, and their experienced staff can help you. And whether it's weight loss management, maybe you've tacked on some unwanted pounds that you would love to shed. Well, they've got programs and products and people that can get you right back on track ASAP and headed in the right direction. Rejuvenation, your appearance. It should be important. It's important to me, and it gets tougher as we get older. But their staff will discuss PRP, hair removal, Botox with you. And finally, hormone therapy. Maybe you've been feeling a little bit off. You haven't felt yourself lately, and you'd like to know why. Well, you can get your levels checked. Maybe they've dipped. Maybe they've dipped to an all-time low, which could affect you in many areas, whether it's your drive, your energy, your get-up, or just your mood. So all these things are a factor in that, and their staff can talk to you about BHRT, testosterone, estrogen. They do it all, and they do it all under one roof. If you need to schedule an appointment or a consultation, pick up the phone and dial this number, 615-283-7291. That's 283-7291. Or you can always learn everything about them by going to their website, CoolSpringsMD.com.
All right, I got to tell you about BetMGM once again. As summer heats up, so does the sports betting action at my friends at BetMGM. Sign up now using the code 1025GAME, and your first wager is totally risk-free, up to $1,000. Place your bets on all the exciting showdowns in MLB, MLS, and more sports from around the globe. And when you register with BetMGM, you'll also get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. New level of excitement. Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code 1025GAME to get back up to $1,000 on your very first wager. New customer offer, paid and free bets, must be 21 years or older, must be in Tennessee. Visit BetMGM.com for a full list of terms and conditions. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, Mike Vrabel spoke today after practice and had some good little juicy nuggets that he threw out there to the media. So we'll play some of what we heard or what he said so you can hear it and we can hear it because we've seen stuff on Twitter, and it's worthy of playing. So here's Titans head coach Mike Vrabel.
First, I hope you're feeling better, and have you had a negative test result yet?
Great, ready to go, no negative test.
I guess with no negative test, Mike, I guess can you give us the latest on maybe what your plan is for Monday, who will kind of run the show and how you think that'll go, or for Saturday?
For Saturday, I think it'll go great. We're on the football team ready to go. So we'll see how the plan shakes out. We'll see who's available to play and who's available to coach, but real confident that those guys will be ready to go and continue what we've been trying to do on these last couple preseason games, and continue to try to play the way that we feel like is beneficial for us to win football games. Running the football, stopping the run. We have to be better on third down offensively. We've been pretty good there defensively. We've taken care of the football and we've turned it over. Those are real important things that we believe in. So, who's ever out there with the challenge flag, hopefully they can get them to do that as well.
Teron?
I hope you're feeling better, Coach. That being said, touching on the other coaches, do you have an update as far as where the rest of the staff is, especially Coach Ackerman, who we didn't see today and I don't believe yesterday?
Yeah, Alk wasn't there today or yesterday either. He's out in the protocol as well, so I don't think he'll be available for the game.
John, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, looked like Matt Barkley today was getting a lot of time with the first teamers. I know obviously Ryan's not there, but how do you plan to work the quarterbacks in terms of reps without Ryan there? Is it like a 50-50 split, in practice, or do you give one more one day, less the next day? How do you feel like that will work?
Well, I don't think it's going to matter going forward tomorrow. The plan for the game would be to start Matt, just like we started Logan last week, and then rotate those guys every 2 series. So hopefully we can continue to get a great evaluation of those guys and, give Matt the opportunity to start the game and see if he can't, get us off to a good start.
Buck?
Yeah, Mike, I know you've talked about having multiple guys on your staff with head coaching experience and things of that nature, but without you and without Craig potentially on Saturday, how does that kind of work operationally?
We're going to be fine. Matt Edwards will help out, and I promise you we'll be just fine for Saturday. So I'm confident in that. Matt will have some help. The biggest thing for the preseason and special teams is just trying to corral the million of moving parts of, who's still in the game, who's not. And that's the biggest thing. The schemes are going to stay, fairly consistent and fairly basic. But it'll be about, who can make sure that we can help Matt, corral the guys that are on the punt team, the guys that are up on the kickoff team in the third quarter or fourth quarter, making sure that operation is sound.
Kayla?
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. When it comes to the final preseason game of this fall camp, what do you want to see in these 4 quarters?
Well, I want to see that, try to get as many guys out there that we possibly can. We haven't had a whole lot of work. We've had, some guys working their way back from stuff. So I'll talk to Todd here, find out who we think is available, and then, how much we feel like they should play in the game, and then continue on what we've done, trying to, establish some sort of identity and how we want to play these games, and continue to work on our football conditioning.
Paul?
Surely there's no competitive advantage here, Mike. Is it a secret because you haven't decided, or is it a secret?
What are we deciding? Like, who's going to challenge the calls on Saturday night, Paul? What do we want to know?
Somebody's operationally functioning as the head coach on Saturday night.
Yep. And on Saturday night, you'll know exactly who it is, Paul.
Are you in communication? Are you allowed to be in communication in any way, shape, or form?
As far as I'm going to watch the game and listen to Mike Keith and Coach Matt call it on the radio. I really don't think I after, I could look back, in the operational manual. I'm almost positive, Paul, that there's not any, communication. I'm almost positive of that. And I think if it was a regular season game, we would, be more creative and look into that. But I'm almost positive that there's not, that you're not allowed to have those types of communications, if you're not involved with the game on game day at the stadium.
Terry?
Mike, we've noticed in practice too that in your absence, John Robinson's been a lot more involved, helping oversee things and assisting the coaching staff. Has that kind of been by design as well?
Sure. I mean, John, our whole idea is that no job is too small. Everybody's going to try to help out where they can. Obviously, I would like to not, break up what we feel like is, everyone's normal duty during the preseason. And if this had, been a regular season, I think that certainly would have changed my mindset. But we're really still trying to get prepared for the regular season. So I don't want to, take a whole lot of moving parts and, change people's, responsibilities around.
Ben Arthur?
Hey, Mike, obviously the COVID situation, you guys are dealing with is unfortunate, but is there at least a sense of ease or at least some kind of confidence that this is kind of happening now and not the regular season, that you guys kind of have time to, get everyone back before the games start to count and whatnot?
Well, I don't think that there's any guarantee, Ben, that situations won't arise in October or November. I wish that we could guarantee that. I don't think anybody can. But as far as a timing perspective, we do have time. Not that we have time to waste, but there is a very real possibility that we'll have all those guys back and healthy and ready to to help us win and perform.
There you go, Titans head coach Mike Vrabel after practice today via Zoom with the local media, and that was brought to you by Hillside Medical. A lot of good nuggets in there. One thing that must have been at the very end, because we could not take it to the very end, is he did say Matt Barkley will start on Saturday, and I think I read on
he
there.
said that as
we got that in
Did
there.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed it. Where every two series they're gonna switch. Okay, I'm sorry, I somehow missed